Chapter 2388. Could it be that even Ming Qi was killed by Yishang? A lower feather god killed two upper feather gods? Who would believe that? Lin Feng, the only female cultivator present, exclaimed. Ming Qi's god soul lamp is dimmer than usual, but it's still lit. You should be fine, Mingy explained. His subordinates' god soul lamps were all under his control. My lord, Night Sorrow killed Wenren Hao. How should we deal with him? Are we just going to leave him be? Ming Yi asked in a low voice. Of course we won't let this go. I will kill anyone who dares to kill Mingy. But he's still useful for the trip to the cave. When we come out of the cave, I'll kill him myself. Mingy's eyes were cold. My lord, we haven't found out the truth yet. Isn't it inappropriate to jump to conclusions? Ming Qingzi advised. He felt that Night Sorrow was lucky and shouldn't be offended. It doesn't matter. He's just an ant. It's okay to kill him by mistake. Mingy waved his hand. You can all leave. After all his subordinates left the hall, Mingy smiled and said, come out. Greet's father. A valiant female cultivator in black walked into the hall. How does it feel to be half a step into the upper god realm? Mingy looked at his daughter lovingly. I feel like I can kill any feather god realm cultivator instantly. My power is different from when I was in the feather god realm, Mingy replied. She smiled and said, I'm a first one this time. How do you want to reward me, father? This time, I'll reward you with a divine weapon with 9 thunder feathers. Keep it for the trip to the cave. Mingy threw his daughter a pouch-shaped spatial artifact. The value of a divine weapon with 9 thunder feathers is immeasurable. Looks like there won't be any accidents in the trip to God Jinyuan's cave. Mingyu said excitedly. There weren't many divine weapons with 9 thunder feathers in High Bay City. With this one, she could use it until she reached the upper god realm. As long as you like it. When we go to the cave, you and Mingy will each lead a team. But remember, you can compete with each other, but you and your sister can't kill each other for anything. Mingju and Mingyu had the same father, but different mothers. There was a deep conflict between their mothers. Understood, father. I'll show mercy, Mingyu said and walked out of the hall. Then she muttered, for alchemists and 4 array masters. Only 2 of them are father's subordinates. I don't know how powerful the others are. If I choose the wrong person, I won't be able to compete with the nether art. I'll reach the half-step high celestial realm before him and come out of seclusion first. Why don't I check on the remaining 6? Night Sorrow, who knew nothing about this, was currently recuperating in the clear sky pagoda. While he was recuperating, he pondered over the life and death reincarnation spear that he had just comprehended. He felt that even though this move was extremely powerful, it consumed too much energy. He pondered how he could improve it so that he could use it in more battles. Looks like I can only explore slowly. During the battle with Wenren Hao, Night Sorrow had familiarized himself with all the fighting techniques he had learned before. After comparing them, he felt that the realm of the gods was indeed a higher realm. The various secret arts were indeed powerful. He did not have the upper hand in the cave, so he had to think of ways to improve his strength. I'm afraid it's unrealistic to improve my cultivation in 2 years. The fastest way to improve my strength is to earn more materials for refining elixirs and weapons. I need to refine more elixirs that can recover my divine power and heal my injuries. I also need a large number of one-time use weapons that can protect me. In addition, I need to buy suitable defensive skills and movement skills. Movement skills, defensive skills, and secret arts were all better in the realm of the gods. Night Sorrow had made up his mind to start from these aspects. After recovering from his injuries, Night Sorrow put Yiling Huan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Xiaoluo into the clear sky pagoda and rushed back to Nanhuai Alley as quickly as possible. After breaking Long Tianqing's array, Night Sorrow brought his 3 family members to see Long Tianqing. He said, Senior, these 3 are my family members. I hope you can help me. Yishan will definitely do his best to fulfill Senior's orders. All right, let me take a look. Long Tianqing didn't look old. She looked like she was in her 20s. However, she gave people a feeling of vicissitudes. She responded and checked on Lin Piaomiao's condition. After a while, she sighed and said, The other party purposely left some divine yuan qi to torture them. Otherwise, it wouldn't have ended up like this. Senior, can you think of a solution? Night Sorrow asked with concern. The three people in front of him were his family members. I can use my divine yuan qi to help them resist the divine yuan qi in their bodies. However, this is not a long-term solution. It can only last for 100 years. Within 100 years, they must be completely cured. Otherwise, the three of them will not be able to be saved. Long Tianqing explained softly. 100 years? That's good. It's better than 30 years. Thank you, Senior. Night Sorrow cupped his hands and said respectfully. She had indeed helped him a lot. After you retrieve the letter from the cave, I will tell you the method to completely cure the three of them. Before that, your three loved ones will stay with me, Long Tianqing said without any hesitation. That's good too. Thank you, Senior. This was the only solution so far. Night Sorrow did not say much. After chatting with Yiling Huan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Shaluo for a while, he left Long Tianqing's residence. Before Night Sorrow left Night Moon Island, he left most of the divine gems, resources, and weapons he did not need to his family members. He only left the Clear Sky Pagoda, Void Magic Robe, Blood Kirin, Evil Slaying Spear, and Samsara Halberd. He was poor. After temporarily resolving the crisis of his family members, he returned to the market and madly refined weapons for a year. He exchanged all the materials he earned for divine gems and appeared in High Bay City with 140,000 divine gems. His purpose was naturally to prepare to buy some defensive skills, movement skills, or unique skills. Jubao Pavilion? I hope this place will give me some surprises. Jubao Pavilion was recommended to Night Sorrow by Xian Jizi. It was one of the top 10 shops in High Bay City. The area it occupied was even bigger than Night Sorrow's residence. Jubao Pavilion welcomes, sir. Sir, are you here to buy or pawn? Night Sorrow's figure had just appeared outside Jubao Pavilion when a young and beautiful female practitioner came forward and asked politely, "So you can pawn things here. What items can you pawn?" Hearing this, Night Sorrow secretly thought that if he had known, he would have brought the 6th Thunder Tribulation Feather Divine Weapon and the heartbreaking Dark Soul Blade. He could probably exchange it for a lot of divine gems. Sir, our Jubao Pavilion has the ability to take any item. As long as it's valuable, we will take it. The female practitioner said, softly with a trace of pride in her voice. Well, very good. Chapter 2389. Night Sorrow, who was following behind the female cultivator, couldn't help but admire the wealth of the Jubao Pavilion. My lord, we're here. Please go ahead. The female cultivator flew to the front of a pavilion and gracefully floated down. She then turned around and gestured for him to enter. What's your name? Night Sorrow asked as they walked into the pavilion. He didn't know her name, and it wasn't convenient to talk. My lord, I don't have a name. My code name in the Jubao Pavilion is 73. The female cultivator bowed her head slightly. There was a hint of disappointment in her eyes, but she concealed it well. Okay, I got it. 73. A beautiful female cultivator who was half a step away from the immortal realm didn't have a name. Night Sorrow felt a little awkward to be called 73, but he didn't comment on it because they had arrived at the area they were supposed to be at. Lord Longjio, the customer is here. Please take care of him. After entering the pavilion, 73 arranged a seat for Night Sorrow and went inside to invite the person in charge of the pavilion. The person in charge of every pavilion in the Jubao Pavilion was a cultivator of the divine feather realm. They had a lot of power, and their status was second only to the pavilion master and 2 deputy pavilion masters. Yo, isn't this 73? I haven't seen you in a while. You become more beautiful. The male cultivator, called Lord Longjio, was a male cultivator with a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks. He wore a silk robe similar to that of shopkeeper. When he saw 73, he teased her. There was a greedy light in his eyes, which made him look aggressive. Lord Longjio, please follow me to receive the customer. 73 knew that Longjio wasn't a kind person. She was slightly afraid and quickly reminded him. She didn't want to have too much contact with him. What's the hurry? Isn't he just a trash of a divine feather realm? In my eyes, he's just a worm. Let's do something more interesting. If he wants to buy something, just wait. Longjio smirked and reached out to touch 73's cheek. Lord Longjio, please respect yourself. It's not the style of the Jubao Pavilion to make the customer wait. If the pavilion master finds out. 73's body trembled as he dodged the attack. Ha! The pavilion lord is in seclusion, trying to break through to the high god stage. Right now, my brother-in-law is in charge of the Jubao Pavilion. I, Lord Gio, like your unique and reserved nature. You don't smell the same as the others. If you know what's good for you, then let Lord Gio have a good time today. But even if you don't know what's good for you, you can't escape from your Lord Gio's palm. TSK, this little face, this chest. Longjio's eyes were filled with lust as he smiled wretchedly. At the same time, he released his god-level pressure. He was a middle-level feather god. How could 73 resist him? 73's face was filled with shock and anger. He wanted to escape, but he couldn't. Ninth Master, although 73 was hired by Jubao Pavilion, I didn't sell myself to Jubao Pavilion. Please conduct yourself with dignity, Lord Gio. 73 realized that he couldn't move. He was so scared that his face was covered in tears as he hurriedly begged for mercy. She was once the eldest daughter of a cultivator clan. Later, her clan was exterminated and she was forced to wander to High Bay City. In order to make a living, she came to this treasure-gathering pavilion to work as a receptionist. As the former jewel of the family, although 73's cultivation wasn't very high, she had a clean and honest heart. What? You're just a lowly servant. You let me, Lord Gio, pamper you, and you're still unwilling? You want to refuse a toast, only to be forced to drink a forfeit? I'll see if you have the guts today. Hearing 73's begging for mercy, Longjio, who had toyed with several female cultivators to death, immediately changed his expression and said, I'll let you go next. Obediently play the flute for me. Otherwise, you can imagine the consequences. After saying this, Longjio withdrew his god-level pressure. 73 didn't hesitate and directly pulled out his sword to commit suicide. Longjio sneered, "Want to die? How can it be so easy? I think you're refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." He released his pressure again and controlled 73. He took off his belt with a lewd smile and said, I, Lord Gio, have been guarding these lousy books that no one wants all year round. I'm bored to death. You finally came once in a blue moon. How can I let you go? As soon as the belt was loosened, 73's maid robe was immediately opened, revealing the white undergarment inside. You're really the best. I, Lord Gio, have good luck today. TSK. Looking at the slender waist, Longjio couldn't help but swallow his saliva. 73, who was powerless to resist, closed his eyes in humiliation and despair. But at this moment, a reprimand suddenly sounded. You, a middle-level feather god, bullied a half-step divine realm female cultivator. Aren't you too shameless? It's that customer's voice. 73 recognized the voice of Night Sorrow. Thinking of Longjio's words just now, he felt that with Night Sorrow's strength as a low-level feather god, it would be difficult to deal with Longjio's matter in Jubao Pavilion. Because although Longjio's character was not good and was the nightmare of all the female cultivators in Jubao Pavilion, he had a very strong background. His brother-in-law was one of the deputy pavilion masters of Jubao Pavilion, Red Swallow Mountain. He was one of the 3 most powerful people in Jubao Pavilion. Customer, leave quickly. 73 kindly reminded. If you know what's good for you, leave quickly. Otherwise, I, Lord Gio, will kill you. Longjio, who had turned into a hungry pervert, waved impatiently at Night Sorrow. In front of a beauty, he did not have any other thoughts. Know what's good for you, a middle-level feather god. Is that all you have? You are worse than a beast. If it was an ordinary cultivator, he would not dare to meddle in the affairs of Jubao Pavilion. But in the face of such a situation, Night Sorrow did not tolerate it at all and directly kicked the room where Long Geo was about to act violently. Bastard! You, a low-level feather god, dare to meddle in my affairs? Go to hell. Long Geo's divine essence condensed and gathered in his palm, and fiercely slapped Night Sorrow. After all, they were in the pavilion, and he did not want to make too much noise. Otherwise, even if he had the support of the deputy pavilion master, it would be too embarrassing to attack a customer. You want me to die? You don't have that ability. Night Sorrow did the exact same action and counterattacked. Everything had to be reasonable, and this shameless Long Geo had taken the initiative to attack, which was exactly what he wanted. Boom! The divine essence from the two palms collided, and Long Geo's body was instantly sent flying, breaking through the walls of the pavilion and flying into the distance, landing in a dense, floating artificial river, looking very miserable. You are courting death. Long Geo, who did not expect to be sent flying, was furious after suffering a great loss. After getting up, he took out a long sword with 3 lightning tribulations from his spatial artifact and flew back to continue attacking Night Sorrow. Long Geo used an absolute art, 9 Dragons Deity Slaying Sword. This 9 Dragons Deity Slaying Sword was an absolute art that was used in conjunction with a sword-type divine artifact. When the sword was slashed out, the sword chi turned into 9 black dragons and separately rushed towards Night Sorrow. Not a bad absolute art, but unfortunately your strength is too weak. You can't display the true power of this move. Chapter 2390. The seemingly simple 10 spears were the result of Night Sorrow's recent spear practice. Apart from the life and death reincarnation spear, Night Sorrow also understood the principle of the simplest and the strongest, which was not inferior to the comprehension of the lost art. Night Sorrow's spear could not see the fluctuation of the spirit chi, but each spear could pierce a black dragon made of spirit chi. The 10th spear went straight for Long Geo's neck. Not good. How can this guy be so strong? He is just a lower feather god. Brother-in-law, save me. Someone wants to kill me. Seeing his strongest lost art being easily broken, Long Geo immediately understood that he was not Night Sorrow's opponent and hurriedly roared while defending. This Jubao pavilion was not big, so there was no need for a sound transmission crystal. Who is making trouble in my Jubao pavilion? Night Sorrow's spear pierced through the void and directly nailed Long Geo to the pavilion. At the same time, there was a deep roar not far away, and a tall figure quickly flew to Long Geo's side. Behind him, there were many people of Jubao Pavilion and cultivators who came to buy things, one after another, surrounded him. The troublemaker is beside you. As a deacon, this person not only molested 73 in front of me, but also attacked me. Is your Jubao Pavilion a shameless shop that bullies its owner? Night Sorrow guessed that the male cultivator in front of him should be Long Geo's brother-in-law. This person was an upper feather god, and his cultivation gave a very solid feeling, unlike Long Geo's superficial cultivation. He should be a real person. Bastard, you hurt my Jubao Pavilion's deacon for no reason, and you dare to be so arrogant? You are just a lower feather god. Who are you scolding? I think you are tired of living. Long Geo's brother-in-law, Chien Shan, did not care about Night Sorrow's words at all, and directly shouted with an angry face. If Night Sorrow was an upper feather god, he would definitely be more relaxed. Facing a lower feather god, he had a sense of superiority from the bottom of his heart. Good, you are very good. I now know how Jubao Pavilion became big. Night Sorrow sneered. So what if you know? So what if you don't know? You're just an ant. Chien Shan also knew that Long Geo was not an honest person, but he still wanted to protect him. Facing a lesser feather god like Night Sorrow, Red Swallow Mountain was extremely arrogant. He didn't use a divine artifact and punched where he stood. Around this fist, there was a layer of gray light. This gray light gathered into a fist made of divine essence that smashed towards Night Sorrow. The deity realm is indeed an unreasonable place. In the face of this punch, Night Sorrow also punched out, shattering the fist form from divine Yuan Qi. A trace of anger rose in his heart. I didn't expect you to be so capable. No wonder he could defeat Long Jiao in the blink of an eye. He was probably hiding his cultivation level. He wasn't a low-level feather god. But so what? Anyone who dares to cause trouble in my Jubao pavilion will be executed. Scarlet Swallow Mountain's attack was neutralized, but he did not panic at all. He took out 2 black iron rings from his spatial artifact and smashed them towards Night Sorrow's location. This was his 5 Thunder Feathers divine artifact, the Deadly Lover's Ring. In Scarlet Swallow Mountain's opinion, even if Night Sorrow was an upper-level feather god, it would be difficult for him to resist the Deadly Lover's Ring, so he didn't use any techniques. You're not strong enough at all. Night Sorrow, who had recalled his spear, chose to clash with Scarlet Swallow Mountain. He wanted to see how his strength was compared to his opponent's. Clang! The result was a tie. This benefited from Night Sorrow's recent growth in battle and his enlightenment of the spear. You also have a 5 Thunder Feathers divine artifact? Scarlet Swallow Mountain was stunned when he saw the blood-chilling, evil-slaying spear. Then he laughed with greed in his eyes. Today, you will die here no matter what. Then my divine artifact will belong to you? You Jubao Pavilion are really shameless. Night Sorrow sneered. So far, he didn't feel any pressure. If his life was threatened, he would leave immediately. So what? Since you dare to cause trouble at Jubao Pavilion, you should be prepared for death. At this time, another Vice Lord of Jubao Pavilion appeared. He was also an upper-level feather god, but his aura was much stronger than Scarlet Swallow Mountain's. He should be infinitely close to a half-step high god. And who are you? Night Sorrow asked fearlessly. I'm Jubao Pavilion's Vice Lord, Yin Jiang, and the one who will take your life. Yin Jiang sneered and transmitted his voice to Scarlet Swallow Mountain. You and I both know what's going on. Why don't we attack together and kill him without giving him a chance to speak? There were more than 1,000 cultivators watching. Yin Jiang knew that letting Night Sorrow speak too much would have a negative impact on Jubao Pavilion. Good, that's how it should be. After killing him, we'll split the resources equally. Scarlet Swallow Mountain agreed with Yin Jiang's idea. He responded without hesitation. You 2 shameless things. Since you're so heartless, don't blame me for being unjust. If we're going to play, let's play big. Night Sorrow was no fool. He knew that it would be difficult for him to resist the combined might of Yin Jiang and Scarlet Swallow Mountain. Moreover, Jubao Pavilion had more than 20 lower-level and mid-level feather gods in addition to the 2 of them. Since things have come to this, I might as well go all the way and steal some useful books. These books are expensive. If I rely on artifact refinement to buy them, who knows how many years it'll take. That won't be of any help to Jinyuan Divine Lord's Cave. These people from Jubao Pavilion had never been reasonable with him. Night Sorrow thought that there was no need to be polite with them. He would just cause a ruckus at Jubao Pavilion. The pavilion just now contained a spatial movement art. It's most useful to me. That was my first target. Yishang had only made his decision in an instant. Yin Jiang and Qi Yinshan were still discussing how to coordinate their attacks so that they could kill Yichun in one strike. Boom! All of a sudden, Night Sorrow made his move and charged into the pavilion. Yin Jiang and Scarlet Swallow Mountain were stunned. They didn't understand why Night Sorrow would make such a choice. He didn't attack them, nor did he run away. Not good. He's stealing the books. Long Jiao, who wasn't seriously injured, shouted with a change in expression. The loft was under his jurisdiction, so he was the first to notice that the spatial attribute movement techniques had been stolen. What? Bastard! Yin Jiang and Scarlet Swallow Mountain couldn't stay calm. Yin Jiang ordered with a dark expression, all deacons above the god realm, attack and kill this madman. Deacon Long Jiao, contact the pavilion master and see if he can come out of seclusion. According to Yin Jiang's estimation, Night Sorrow's strength should be about the same as Scarlet Swallow Mountain. With such strength, if he wanted to cause trouble, they wouldn't be able to take him down easily. If he destroyed the entire Jubao Pavilion today, then it would be a huge joke. 73. Which other pavilion in Jubao Pavilion has valuable books or items? Also, where is the divine rank cultivation art worth 20 million divine crystals? Knight Sorrow, who had just snatched a few spatial movement arts, put 73 into the vast heaven pagoda. He knew that this matter wouldn't end well, so he protected the witnesses first. Chapter 2391. It could be used to cultivate the godly class techniques of paramount gods, and was one of the signature treasures of the Treasure Pavilion. If Knight Sorrow had relied on refining to accumulate divine crystals, he wouldn't have been able to buy it for many years. After all, he didn't have business every day. Now that the Jubao Pavilion had left such a bad impression on him, Knight Sorrow had to be ruthless. Replying to Milord, the divine level cultivation technique is carried by the Pavilion Master. He's currently in seclusion, trying to break through to the High God realm. No one knows where he is. 73, who was hiding in his spatial artifact, was very grateful to Knight Sorrow for saving him. He said regretfully, "However, there are many other rare treasures in the Jubao Pavilion. For example, there are several pill recipes in the hexagonal tower 5 kilometers to the left. 13 miles away, towards the north, there were some rare materials for refining weapons. Further away, there's..." 73 had been in the Jubao Pavilion for many years and knew the distribution of various items like the back of his hand. He finished introducing Knight Sorrow in a moment. "Good. What I lack the most right now are divine cultivation methods and pill recipes. Let's go snatch a few pill recipes first." To Knight Sorrow, a distance of 5 kilometers could be traversed in a flash of thought. In the next moment, he appeared in the pill recipe house of the Jubao Pavilion. The Feather God Deacon was no longer in the pill recipe house. How could a group of half-step divinity cultivators stop Knight Sorrow? Just like how he had snatched a divine spatial attribute movement technique, Knight Sorrow gently raised his hand and stored all 6 divine grade pill recipes in the pill prescription house into his spatial Dharma artifact. "You, how dare you?" The Jubao Pavilion had never encountered such a thing. After Knight Sorrow succeeded twice in a row, Yin Jiang and the 2 vice pavilion masters of Scarlet Swallow Mountain were furious. However, Knight Sorrow dodged their attacks several times. Knight Sorrow could easily pass through time and space. When he was focused on escaping, the 2 couldn't lock onto him. They were also afraid that if they used too much force, they'd raise the Jubao Pavilion to the ground. "How dare you? You call that bold? Today, I will wipe out your unreasonable Jubao Pavilion." Knight Sorrow continued to rush towards his next target. He vaguely felt that the treasure-gathering pavilion only had a few books and a few pill recipes, which seemed a little out of place. However, what he didn't know was that what was displayed were only some samples. There were still quite a few good things that were put away by the various deacons and vice pavilion masters in their respective spatial artifacts. Boom! This time, Knight Sorrow had just landed in a pavilion when General Yin used a divine weapon to blow up the pavilion. Many of the half-step divine realm shop attendants in the pavilion exploded and died. Who would have thought that General Yin would be so ruthless? Knight Sorrow had just collected some alchemy and smithing materials when he was struck in the back and suffered some injuries. Alas, witnessing all of this from Knight Sorrow's spatial artifact, 73 sighed. She secretly thought that these people's lives were really as cheap as ants. She felt a sense of pity for them. What a ruthless method! Getting up from the ruins in a slightly sorry state, Knight Sorrow, who had suffered some injuries, found that this short delay had caused him to be surrounded by more than 20 divine realm cultivators. Why hasn't the defensive array been activated? Hurry up and activate it and seal the space. Today, we must not let him escape. Otherwise, this will be a great humiliation to our Jubao Pavilion. General Yin roared as he surrounded Knight Sorrow in the middle. Because Knight Sorrow had a deep grasp of time and space, if there was no array to stop him, even if he was surrounded, it would not be easy to completely trap him. "Huh, you want to activate the array? Not so easy." There was a defensive array where the Jubao Pavilion was located. How could Knight Sorrow not see this? In fact, someone had already tried to activate the array just now. However, the array core of this top-level Divine Realm array had already been found and destroyed by Knight Sorrow. The array had already lost 60% of its power. The fact that he did not feel that his life was in danger meant that Knight Sorrow had already thoroughly studied the Jubao Pavilion's array. This was due to the fact that Seaside City was located in a remote corner and the array master's abilities were not enough. Not good. Reporting to Pavilion Master Yin, the array in the pavilion has basically gone out of control. Only a small area can be activated. The array masters in the Jubao Pavilion also realized that the situation was not right. Bastard! The array that we spent so many divine crystals to set up was actually broken in an instant. General Yin was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. Brother Yin, in this situation, we can only use that divine artifact of the pavilion. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will be very difficult to kill him quickly. Qi Yinshan, who was temporarily biding his time, transmitted his voice to General Yin. That is indeed the only way. Otherwise, if we continue fighting, we might be able to kill him, but the Jubao Pavilion will probably be destroyed. General Yin thought for a moment and transmitted his voice. Pin him down first. Don't be in a hurry to act. I will go to the secret pavilion to retrieve that divine artifact. All right, it shouldn't be difficult to trap him. After Qi Yinshan responded, he did not make a move. Instead, he shouted to Knight Sorrow, "Friend, it is better to squash enmity than keep it alive. If you can return all the books that you stole and compensate for all the losses of the Jubao Pavilion, then we can pretend that today's matter never happened." His goal was very clear. Naturally, it was to stall for time. He was waiting for Yin Jiang to retrieve the divine artifact of the Jubao Pavilion from the secret pavilion. Compensate for your losses? It's not impossible. However, I haven't had enough today. When all the pavilions of the Jubao Pavilion collapse, then we can talk about compensation. What do you think? Yin Jiang disappeared. Knight Sorrow guessed that he was either calling for reinforcements or retrieving some powerful divine artifact. Qi Yinshan's words also indirectly prove this point. Sir, 12 miles in front of you is the pawn shop of the Jubao Pavilion. There should be many items pawned by cultivators inside. At this time, 73 reminded him from the spatial artifact. With her as a living map, Knight Sorrow took advantage of Yin Jiang's absence to activate the robe of nothingness and brandish the blood-chilling, evil-slaying spear. He once again charged out of the encirclement and went straight to the next tower. Bastard! How did Long Jiao provoke such a stubborn and difficult person? Qi Yinshan, who did not stop Knight Sorrow in time, cursed in his heart. However, to his relief, Knight Sorrow did not intend to leave immediately. If he escaped at this moment, no one would be able to stop him. There are indeed many good things in the pawn shop. The assets in the pawn shop were accumulated over many years. Not only were there divine artifacts, there were also all kinds of rare items. There were some that even the Jubao Pavilion could not identify the specific use of. Knight Sorrow, who did not have time to study, waved his hand, and all of them were stored in the spatial artifact. You're courting death. After Knight Sorrow's continuous success, Qi Yinshan was really angry. He directly used his blood essence to activate the deadly Mandarin Duck Bracelet and smashed it at Knight Sorrow. The deadly Mandarin Duck Bracelet, which was originally a 5 Thunder Tribulation divine artifact, swallowed the blood essence of the upper-level feather god and immediately emitted a bewitching red and black light. This red and black light directly attacked Knight Sorrow's soul. Otherwise, my Jubao Pavilion will not be responsible for any unnecessary injuries. Right at this moment, General Yan's gloomy voice suddenly rang out. He was issuing an order to clear the area. It was obvious that he wanted to use his trump card. After being frightened by Yin Jiang, how could the nearby spectators not understand what was going on? One by one, they flew as far away as they could. Okay, let's go. Hearing General Yan's words, Knight's Sorrow suddenly felt a sense of crisis. He could also feel that there was a very dangerous thing on General Yan's body. After destroying the last pavilion, Knight Sorrow's figure flashed and directly rushed out of the Jubao pavilion's range. Want to run? Humph. Do you think you can run away? General Yan's face revealed a trace of coldness. He snorted coldly and took out a black sword box from his spatial Dharma artifact. He burned his blood essence to activate it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless sword rays of different colors flew out of the black sword box and madly shot toward Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow, who used his movement technique to dodge, found that even if he hid in the void, he couldn't avoid the sword rays' attacks. In a moment, he was cut by several sword rays. Against these sword rays, the defensive Dharma artifact of the Void Robe had no effect at all. Clearly, its defensive level was too low. If Knight Sorrow didn't have the power of merit protecting his body and his own high level of body refinement, his divine body would have been countless times stronger than that of ordinary cultivators. Perhaps he would have been directly killed by the sword rays. This is the power of a forbidden feather divine artifact. The black sword box's attributes were complex and difficult to determine, but the sword rays that shot out transcended time and space and were extremely powerful. Knight Sorrow guessed that it must be a forbidden divine artifact and was thinking about how to deal with it. If these sword rays continued to shoot, he would soon be unable to resist. Haha, I just arrived, and I've already seen the power of a forbidden divine artifact. This trip is really worth it. The Jubao Pavilion really has a foundation. This inferior feather god is not simple either. He can turn the Jubao Pavilion upside down and last so long under the influence of a forbidden divine artifact. How long do you think he can last in the end? Just as Knight Sorrow was thinking about how to deal with the sword rays, a playful voice sounded in the sky above the Jubao Pavilion. A handsome male cultivator in a uniform of a law enforcement captain appeared on top of the clouds with more than 10 law enforcement members. They were just watching and didn't come down to stop it immediately. This handsome male cultivator was Lung Chinchio, one of the 5 law enforcement captains of High Bay City. He looked a little feminine, but his divine essence was very majestic. He was clearly a half-step high god. There aren't many forbidden divine artifacts in the entire High Bay City. This cultivator is also an inferior feather god. I'm afraid he'll be lucky if he can last a few breaths of time, the vice captain Chun Hui said. After pondering for a moment, Chun Hui asked, Captain, should we stop them? If City Lord Shangwan Yin finds out about this, it won't be good. After all, we're not his people. The people of the Jubao Pavilion are already jealous. We don't need to provoke them for a rogue cultivator. Besides, although we're not Shangwan Yun's people, we're not afraid of him. Don't forget that Lord Ling Xiaoya is also a high god behind us, Lung Chinchio said indifferently. Boom. At this moment, Knight Sorrow, who had been hit by the sword radiance, had no choice but to use the Samsara halberd to block it. The Samsara halberd was a pure, forbidden divine artifact. It naturally had no problem blocking some sword radiance. However, since he had taken out his trump card, Knight Sorrow would not be satisfied with just blocking the sword radiance. As he destroyed the sword radiance, he activated the Samsara halberd and slashed at Yin Jiang, who was controlling the sword case. What? You also have a forbidden divine artifact. Yin Jiang's expression changed when he saw Knight Sorrow blocking the sword radiance and slashing at him with the Samsara halberd. The black sword case did not belong to him. He could only use it because he was constantly burning his blood essence. Knight Sorrow's Samsara halberd obviously belonged to him. He did not need to burn his blood essence to use it. What should we do? Not far away, Qi Yin Shan, who was watching with a smug expression, was completely dumbfounded. He did not expect Knight Sorrow to have a forbidden divine artifact. Yin Jiang, who was controlling the sword case, had no choice but to burn a large amount of blood essence to control the sword case to block the halberd descending from the sky. Chapter 2393. Taboo Divine Artifact. This rogue cultivator actually has a taboo divine artifact. Great, this is really great. Lung Qianxiu, who was originally watching coldly from the sidelines, saw Night Sorrow use a taboo divine artifact to send Yin Jiang flying, and his eyes were immediately filled with excitement. He ordered, "Quickly go and control that male cultivator. Absolutely cannot let him escape." There were not many taboo divine artifacts in the entire Haibei city. Although Lung Qianxiu was one of the 5 enforcement captains, he had never owned one. Seeing Night Sorrow's samsara halberd, the idea of taking it for himself immediately arose in his heart. "Stop! All of you stop! Do you want to beat the entire Haibei city into ruins?" Lung Qianxiu ordered. Chun Hui immediately blocked in front of Night Sorrow and Yin Jiang, preventing the two sides from continuing to fight. The enforcement team, Night Sorrow, who originally wanted to kill Yin Jiang, saw the enforcement team appear and put away the samsara halberd into a spatial magic artifact. Murong Bai and Zhuowei of the enforcement team left Night Sorrow with the impression that they were upright and outspoken law enforcement, so he was more polite to the enforcement team. "Vice Captain Chun, you have to make a decision for my Jubao Pavilion. Today's matter was all caused by this bastard. Not only did he injure several people of my Jubao Pavilion for no reason, he also stole a huge amount of resources and ancient books. Our entire Jubao Pavilion was destroyed in his hands." Yin Jiang was seriously injured and swallowed a medicinal pill to recover. Qi Yinshan immediately cupped his hands and complained. Qi Yinshan had been in Haibei City for many years and was much more familiar with the enforcement team than Night Sorrow. At the same time, he also knew that as long as the enforcement team appeared, there was no possibility of continuing to fight. Otherwise, he would not dare to be so close to Night Sorrow. The enforcement team belonged to the City Lord Mansion, but the 5 enforcement captains were respectively the people of the 5 great gods. Going against their will was offending all of the gods of Haibei City. That was tantamount to courting death. What exactly is going on? Don't talk nonsense. Although Chun Hui nodded and bowed in front of Lung Qianxiu, in front of others, he had a cold image, making people feel that coldness from the heart. In fact, it wasn't just him. Most of the members of the law enforcement team didn't smile when they were carrying out their missions. This person originally came to our treasure-gathering pavilion to purchase ancient books. But halfway through, he was lustful and wanted to forcefully take the bodies of our treasure-gathering pavilion's female cultivators. My Jubao Pavilion's Deacon Long Jio wanted to stop them, but this person relied on his strength to injure the deacon of our treasure-gathering pavilion, Long Jio. Qi Yinshan, who had just talked to Long Jio, panted for a moment before continuing. After that, he even ignored the city lord's laws and madly looted my treasure-gathering pavilion. Hundreds of people have been wounded. Oomph, is there such a thing? Hearing this, Chen Hui snorted and looked at Night Sorrow. Is what he said true? Of course it's not the truth. It all started because Long Jio was lustful. I tried to stop him, but Long Jio wanted to kill me. After Long Jio was injured by me, the people of Jubao Pavilion attacked me indiscriminately. Night Sorrow, who had a good impression of the law enforcement team, patiently recounted the whole incident. The people of Jubao Pavilion bullied the weak with their spears. If it weren't for his extraordinary cultivation, he would have reincarnated long ago. You're both saying that you're right, and you're both saying that you're right. Chen Hui scolded coldly. Don't you 2 deity realm cultivators understand that? Since they were in the wrong, Qi Yinshan naturally couldn't bring out any evidence that was beneficial to Jubao Pavilion. Sir, the image crystal in my hand recorded the whole incident. It can prove who's spouting nonsense. At this time, Night Sorrow took out the image crystal that had been recording since Long Jio molested 73 from his spatial artifact. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Qi Yinshan's expression immediately changed. The rules of Haibei City were set by the 5 deities. If anyone violated them, the consequences would be unimaginable. Give it to me. Taking the image crystal from Night Sorrow's hand, Chun Hui scanned it with his divine soul power and understood the ins and outs of the whole incident. You Jubao Pavilion. You don't put the city lord and the other deities in your eyes. Men, arrest everyone from Jubao Pavilion. With a cold expression, Chun Hui ordered his subordinates to bring everyone from Jubao Pavilion back to the enforcement team. Then, he looked at Night Sorrow. Jubao Pavilion is indeed in the wrong, but it's not a glorious thing for you to repeatedly snatch the ancient books. Come back to the enforcement team with us and return all the ancient books you snatched. Do you have any objections to this? Chun Hui naturally didn't forget Lung Qianqiu's instructions. He pretended to deal with it fairly because the enforcement team had to consider the consequences. In his heart, he thought that as long as he could trick Night Sorrow to the enforcement team, he could deal with him however he wanted. As for the taboo divine artifact, it would naturally belong to Lung Qianqiu. Okay, I'll go back with you. However, I won't return all the ancient books from Jubao Pavilion. Those who attacked me, without reason, will naturally have to pay the corresponding price. Night Sorrow, who cultivated the power of virtue, felt a trace of discomfort towards Chun Hui. However, he didn't do anything wrong and wasn't afraid of going to the enforcement team. Good. That's straightforward enough. On the surface, there was nothing wrong with Chun Hui's handling of this matter. After Night Sorrow agreed, everyone followed Lung Qianqiu to where the enforcement team of Haibei City was located. Among the onlookers, there was a beautiful black-clothed female cultivator. She was Mingyu, who originally wanted to test Night Sorrow's strength. She pondered for a moment and ultimately didn't stand up for Night Sorrow. The enforcement team of Haibei City was located in the center of Haibei City, less than 1,000 miles away from the City Lord Mansion. Although it was called the enforcement team, it was actually responsible for interrogating and imprisoning various felons and foreign races in Haibei City, such as heavenly demons, hybrid fishmen, and dark creatures. Night Sorrow followed everyone to the enforcement team and immediately felt a trace of solemnity. He thought to himself, no wonder these enforcement team members are so serious. Chun Hui, take them to interrogate the people from Jubao Pavilion. You come with me. After slowly landing on the ground from the sky, Lung Qianqiu gave Chun Hui an order and looked at Night Sorrow. Okay. On the surface, Night Sorrow said yes, but in his heart he cursed. Although Lung Qianqiu restrained himself well, Night Sorrow still saw a trace of uncontrollable greed in his eyes. He thought to himself, this person is probably after my heavenly samsara halberd. However, he's a half-step high god, and it's difficult for me to defeat him. Moreover, the enforcement team's defensive formation is at the high god level. I may not be able to break it. What should I do? In fact, it wasn't that Night Sorrow didn't notice anything before he came, but that he couldn't refuse at that time. If he refused the enforcement team's reasonable request in public, he would definitely be charged with a crime. Moreover, if the enforcement team and the people from Jubao Pavilion attacked at the same time, Night Sorrow would have a hard time escaping. Humph. Chapter 2394. You're quite calm. Lung Qianqiu, who was walking in front with his hands behind his back, squeezed out a sentence from between his teeth. Flying was forbidden in the law enforcement team. As the captain of the law enforcement team, Lung Qianqiu did not have the privilege of flying. I didn't violate the rules of Haibei City, so I'm naturally calm. Those who aren't calm should be those with bad intentions, right? Night Sorrow, who sensed that something was wrong, retorted. At the same time, he observed the situation around him. No matter what, he would not be the first to turn hostile. That would give the other party something to use against him. Good. Not bad. I admire your calmness. Next, I'll take you to appreciate the various small cages in the law enforcement team. I wonder if you'll still be so calm after appreciating their situation. Lung Qianqiu spoke softly with a trace of coldness in his words. It was like a venomous snake spitting out its tongue, giving people a very uncomfortable feeling. Compared to many cultivators who wanted to snatch treasures, Lung Qianqiu was very patient and was not in a hurry to make a move. He took Night Sorrow to familiarize himself with the various terrifying cages. First, the two walked into a dungeon. This dungeon was dark and filled with cultivators. Every cultivator was in an extremely sorry state. Their bodies were pierced with countless chains. All of them had disheveled hair and dirty faces. They did not have any vitality. Do you know how many years have they been imprisoned for the longest time? Haha, it's not how many years. It's several reincarnations. They spend their days in torment. They can't even reincarnate, even if they want to. This kind of despair is the greatest nemesis of cultivators. As the captain, I have the right to send them here. Lung Chinchio, who was not afraid of Night Sorrow attacking or escaping, had a sense of superiority. He took Night Sorrow to visit the law enforcement team's cages one by one. In the end, they stopped at the entrance of one of the cages. The entrance of this cage was a mirror-like circular barrier. The surface of the barrier seemed to be flowing with ripples. Lung Chinchio sized up Night Sorrow and said, "This small cage world is called the Endless Bone Realm. I believe you should have heard of it, right?" Speaking up to here, Lung Chinchio's body suddenly erupted with powerful divine essence energy fluctuations, and his eyes were gloomy and cold as he said, "Today, you came to the treasure-gathering pavilion to cause trouble for no reason. According to the law, you should be thrown into the Endless Bone territory. Do you know?" It was Lung Chinchio who had been holding back all this while, because he had ordered people to investigate Night Sorrow. At this moment, he already knew everything about Night Sorrow from the sound transmission. After discovering that Night Sorrow was a rogue cultivator with no backing, Lung Chinchio no longer had any misgivings in his heart. "You despicable scum. You walked around in circles just to say these few words? Could it be that the evidence I presented was not enough? As the captain of a law enforcement team, is this how you enforce the law?" Night Sorrow scolded fearlessly. "You mean this?" Lung Chinchio smiled as he crushed the image crystal that Night Sorrow had given to Chenhui. "At this point, my words are the evidence. I won't beat around the bush with you. Quickly hand over the taboo divine artifact, and I will let you go. Otherwise, I will kick you into this endless bone domain. I heard that some of your family members aren't in good condition and are still waiting for treatment." Endless bone domain. There were countless skeleton creatures that could be resurrected from the dead. Moreover, a cultivator's elemental energy and soul power would be severely suppressed inside. If a cultivator was exiled inside, it would basically take a few reincarnations for them to successfully escape. Lung Chinchio, who knew that Night Sorrow was in a hurry to treat his family members' dantians, started to threaten him. He thought that if he could do it without bloodshed, he would try his best not to make a move to avoid causing too much trouble. After all, he wasn't the only one who had the final say in the law enforcement team. "I'm afraid that your brain is spoiled. If you want the reincarnation Heavenly Halberd, then take it with your strength." Night Sorrow had upgraded the reincarnation Heavenly Halberd to a taboo divine artifact since he started cultivating. It was like his own arm. When he heard Lung Chinchio's words, he immediately got angry. He thought to himself, "Who do you think you are? Why should I give my things to you? You're the captain of the law enforcement team and a half-step high god." Whether it was Murong Bai or Zhuo Wei, they had left a good impression on Night Sorrow. However, Night Sorrow despised Lung Chinchio for his greed and his methods today. "Aha, I heard that you care about your family the most. Looks like that's not the case." Lung Chinchio mocked, handing over the reincarnation Heavenly Halberd obediently, and then being killed by you means I care about my family? Sissy, if you want the taboo divine artifact, just fight. Don't beat around the bush. Don't you have the demeanor of an expert? Night Sorrow mocked. Night Sorrow and the reincarnation Heavenly Halberd had experienced countless battles since he started cultivating. How could he be so easily fooled by Lung Chinchio? Lung Chinchio's strength was a half-step high god, which was much higher than Night Sorrow's, but he still wanted to threaten him. Obviously, he wasn't sure how powerful the Feather Divine artifact was, so he wanted to trick the reincarnation Heavenly Halberd. As for letting them go after getting the reincarnation Heavenly Halberd, how was that possible? Even a 3-year-old wouldn't believe it. In that case, then I'll kill you first and take the treasure. No, I won't kill you. I'll kick you into the Endless Bone Realm and make you suffer. Seeing that his threats didn't work, Lung Chinchio's eyes turned extremely cold. He took out a long whip and lashed it at Night Sorrow. This was Lung Qianxiu's 8 Thunder Tribulation Feather Divine artifact, the soul-rending divine whip. It was a terrifying divine artifact that could tear apart divine souls. As the whip lashed out, it carried black energy ripples and enveloped Night Sorrow, who was very close to it. Black energy ripples curled up like poisonous snakes, bringing with them a cold and destructive aura. Being enveloped by them, Night Sorrow felt an extremely heavy pressure. This kind of pressure made him feel suffocated, as if he was being trampled under someone's feet in battle. Get lost! Night Sorrow roared and used his power of virtue to disperse the pressure. He took out the reincarnation Heavenly Halberd and clashed with Lung Qianxiu. In terms of momentum, Night Sorrow didn't lose at all. However, the difference in strength was too great. Night Sorrow was sent flying and almost fell into the Endless Bone Realm's Spirit Formation Gate. That was close. A half-step high god is indeed powerful, but I should still be able to resist. There were only 2 years left in the Jinyuan Divine Lord's Cave. Night Sorrow, who had to fight for his family, naturally didn't want to enter the Endless Bone Realm. If he fell in, not only would Yiling Huan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Shaluo lose hope, but Wu Lingfei wouldn't be able to save them in time. If that happened, Night Sorrow would collapse. At this moment, Night Sorrow, who broke out in cold sweat, was clearly aware that there was only a single path before him, and it was to fight Lung Qianxiu to the death. As for the rules and laws, there was no need to think about them any longer. Very good. You're not injured after receiving my attack. A taboo divine artifact is truly amazing. But if that's all you've got, why don't you leave the divine artifact behind and jump in the Endless Bone Realm yourself? Lung Qianxiu's whip was just a simple test. Chapter 2395. After Lung Qianxiu chanted the incantation, the soul-rending whip began to change. The swaying black energy patterns gradually turned azure. Soul-rending tribulation. Azure energy rippled out like world-destroying lightning. Lung Qianxiu sneered. Destroying your soul and throwing it into the Endless Bone Realm would be a better choice. The soul-rending tribulation was an attack that could tear apart souls. He felt it was a waste to use it on a lesser feather god. You're too naive if you think you can tear my soul apart with this attack. You should think about yourself first. The enforcers weren't to be trifled with, but Night Sorrow couldn't just sit around and wait for death. He decided to use his strongest move to surprise his opponent. Reincarnation Spear. Without hesitation, Night Sorrow used the Reincarnation Spear. He knew he wasn't a match for a half-step high god. Only his strongest move could pose a threat to Lung Qianxiu. Roar! Night Sorrow had exhausted all of his divine Yuan Qi. The world changed color when he used the Reincarnation Spear. The Reincarnation Halberd let out a hum and turned into a streak of light aimed at Lung Qianxiu's forehead. This move also attacked the soul. As a half-step high god, Lung Qianxiu was alarmed. The soul was the most important thing to a cultivator and couldn't be harmed in any way. An attack with the forbidden reincarnation attribute? It's terrifying indeed. A lesser feather god is actually a threat to me. If I hadn't become a half-step high god and experienced a trace of the heavenly Tao, I wouldn't have been able to use the divine artifact my lord gave me. This taboo divine artifact is truly extraordinary. I must have it. Lung Qianxiu didn't panic in the face of Night Sorrow's strongest attack. He activated the Dustless Robe, a divine artifact he had obtained from Shadow Hall Masterling Xiaoye. The Dustless Robe was a deity-level robe that had yet to pass the lightning tribulation. To a deity, it was trash, but to a feather god, it was a powerful defensive treasure. As long as it was activated, its defensive power would be terrifying. After all, it was made of a deity-level material, which wasn't something a feather god could compare to. Night Sorrow's life and death reincarnation spear was supported by the heavenly halberd of Samsara, a forbidden artifact. Its power was already unstoppable in the divine feather realm. However, Lung Qianxiu, who had activated the dustless robe, still managed to block it. Although his soul had suffered a blow, his life force was still Wuyo. Facing the soul-splitting tribulation, Night Sorrow was under even greater pressure than Lung Chinchio. This was because his robe of nothingness only had 5 lightning tribulation feathers. It couldn't withstand much of the soul-splitting Divine Whip's attacks. Coupled with the massive consumption of Divine Essence energy within his body, he could only use the power of virtue to resist. Buzz! Even with Night Sorrow's powerful Divine Soul, he was still shaken by the explosion. He felt his Divine Soul buzzing, and his head felt like it was about to explode. A half-step high god is that powerful? My strongest attack didn't have any effect at all? Night Sorrow, whose Divine Soul had been injured, was surprised to find that Lung Chinchio was practically unharmed by the life and death reincarnation spear. However, Lung Chinchio quickly gave Night Sorrow an answer. Seeing that Night Sorrow was injured and that his divine essence was nearly depleted, he smiled playfully. If I didn't have the high god robe, I might have been counterattacked by a lesser divine feather god like you. This taboo divine artifact of yours is truly terrifying. It's just that it can't be used in your hands. So you have the protection of the high god robe. Hearing this, Night Sorrow's face turned cold. To him, Lung Chinchio was like a turtle that had retreated into its shell. He couldn't hurt him at all. The difference between a high god and a feather god was like heaven and earth. They couldn't be compared at all. I don't lack defensive artifacts. What I lack is the forbidden artifact in your hands. Spear arts? I can do that too. Sensing that Night Sorrow could no longer bring any pressure, Lung Chinchio took out a black iron spear from his spatial artifact and smiled. Ever since I started cultivating, I've been cultivating the Spear Dao. I only gave up when I reached the Divine Feather Realm. Now, it seems that I can start cultivating again. Bah! Those who cultivate the Spear Dao are the most masculine. A woman like you wants to sully the Spear Dao? I think you shouldn't even cultivate the Whip Dao. It's best if you cultivate the embroidery needle. This was Night Sorrow's disdain from the bottom of his heart. With Lung Chinchio's personality, it was impossible for him to walk far on the Spear Dao. As he cursed, Night Sorrow studied some of the things he had obtained from the treasure-gathering pavilion to see if there was anything that could turn the situation around. He was now at an absolute disadvantage and in a very dangerous situation. If he couldn't think of a way, there were only 2 outcomes waiting for him. One was the destruction of his divine soul, and the other was being thrown into the endless bone realm. Either outcome would make him despair. You're courting death. No, it'll be hard for you to die even if you want to. I'm going to torture you and then throw you into the endless bone realm. Night Sorrow's words clearly infuriated Lung Chinchio. It was the idea of the Umbra Hall's Hall Master, Ling Xiaoye, that he changed to cultivate the Whip Dao after the Feather God Empress. In the view of the Umbra Hall's Hall Master, Ling Xiaoye, Lung Chinchio's Spear Dao was lacking some domineering aura. To Lung Chinchio, this matter was a taboo in his heart. He used the iron spear that he had just taken out and stabbed it at Night Sorrow's body with a gloomy expression. Clang! Night Sorrow, who was thinking of a countermeasure, didn't dodge. He wanted to show weakness while thinking of a way. Today's matter didn't just concern himself. It also concerned Yiling Huan, Lin Piaomiao, Yi Xiaoluo, Wu Lingfei, and everyone from the Night Moon Dynasty. As long as there was a trace of hope, Night Sorrow wasn't willing to give up. Your body is not bad, and the power of virtue is even more enviable. It's just that I can't obtain these, so they're just trash. Hand over the taboo divine artifact, and I'll let you suffer less. Do you think that I, a member of the enforcement team, am useless? Lung Chinchio was a little surprised that his spear didn't pierce Night Sorrow's skin. However, he didn't care and started threatening again. A despicable person like you better stop talking nonsense. Don't make me look down on you. Use whatever means you have. Night Sorrow will take it. Night Sorrow, who had already put away the Samsara heavenly halberd into his spatial Dharma artifact, said indifferently. He wasn't afraid of being tortured. All right, then I'll let you have a taste of my, Lung Chinchio's, special means. This is the Myriad poison heart-devouring pill refined from 10,000 types of poisonous insects. After a cultivator eats it, it'll be like having their internal organs being bitten by 10,000 types of poisonous insects. Let me have a taste. Ha! Lung Chinchio had a perverted smile on his face as he approached Night Sorrow step by step. Torturing cultivators was one of his hobbies. Have a taste? I think you should have a taste of my Myriad poison heart-devouring powder. At this moment, Night Sorrow made up his mind. He burned the blood chi in his left arm and used the Wuji body tempering art to absorb it. Then, he took out a special poison from the treasure-gathering pavilion's pawn shop from his spatial Dharma artifact. Chapter 2396. The heart-loss poison powder was similar to the one Xianjizi had used in battle, but it was much more effective. It could paralyze a cultivator for a short period of time, preventing them from using their divine origin chi and soul energy. It was a notorious weapon in the god realm. Even a high god would be affected, let alone a divine feather cultivator. However, it was very troublesome to refine. It required more than 10,000 kinds of poisonous herbs, so it was very rare and more valuable than ordinary pills. You want me to enter the Endless Bone realm? You should go by yourself. I won't be seeing you off. Night Sorrow's heart-loss poison powder was too close for Lung Chinchio to dodge. He was paralyzed for a short period of time. At this moment, Yishan kicked him into the entrance of the Endless Bone realm without hesitation. If you weren't such a wishy-washy sissy, you would have just killed me. You wouldn't have ended up like this. I knew you weren't cut out for the spear. You're not decisive at all. Night Sorrow was in a good mood after kicking Lung Chinchio into the Endless Bone realm and only suffered some damage to his divine soul and his left arm. Then what do you think is decisive? However, at that moment, a cold voice could be heard. It was Chen Hui. He had appeared in front of Night Sorrow with 20 or 30 divine feather cultivators and surrounded him at the entrance of the Endless Bone realm. In fact, Chen Hui had been waiting for a long time, but Lung Chinchio and Night Sorrow had failed to notice the high-level restriction set up by the enforcers. What do you want? Night Sorrow asked. He already knew the answer. He just wanted to buy some time so he could think of a way to deal with the situation. In his current state, he had no chance of winning against Chen Hui and more than 20 divine Feather Realm cultivators. If he tried to escape, he would be trapped in an exalted God Realm formation. It would be more difficult than ascending to the heavens. I want to thank you for helping me get rid of that sissy Lung Chinchio. If nothing unexpected happens, I'll take over his position. In other words, I have a chance to become a half-step high god. Chen Hui, who had been calm all this while, revealed a crazed look of joy. However, his expression soon turned serious as he ordered, "Kill him as quickly as possible to prevent any unexpected events from taking place. Taboo divine artifact, you're mine. Even if I enter the Endless Bone realm, I won't let you off so easily." Chen Hui was like a mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Night Sorrow knew that he had no chance, so he steeled his heart and charged into the Endless Bone realm. If he hesitated, he might be killed by these cultivators. The fighting strength of the law enforcement team was definitely not something that the cultivators of the treasure-gathering pavilion could compare with. My family. I'm sorry. Chen Hui, you forced me into the Endless Bone region. Once I come out, I will take your life. Night Sorrow was a decisive person. At the same time, he was also a soft-hearted person. Entering the so-called Endless Bone realm, he actually did not care. However, this would cause them to miss the trip to the Jinyuan Divine Lord's Cave residence. That way, they wouldn't be able to help Long Tianqing find the letter and obtain the method to save Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Xiaoluo. If they stayed in the Endless Bone region for too long, by the time they came out, the world would have changed, and they would no longer have any relatives left. As for Wu Lingfei, Night Sorrow did not even dare to imagine what kind of tragic fate awaited her. I hate it. Traversing through the chaotic passageway, Night Sorrow's heart was filled with endless hatred as his body and spirit trembled. Ordinary people would need a few reincarnations to leave the Endless Bone region. He had less than 2 years left before he had to give up on the trip to the Jinyuan Divine Lord's Cave. Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Xiaoluo would probably only be able to last for another 100 years at most. 100 years? No, as long as there's a chance, I'll get out within 2 years. Despair? That was not Knight Soro's character. As long as there was the slightest bit of hope, he would not give up. For his family, he had to fight to the end. Endless Bone region. Is it? Knight Sorrow, want to see how terrifying you are. After a brief moment of grief and indignation, Knight Sorrow faced the sky and roared. He wanted to fight against time. At this time, Knight Sorrow was thrown out of the passageway and landed on the ground of the Endless Bone region. This place was called the Endless Bone region, and it was said that there were many skeleton creatures that could revive the dead. However, when Knight Sorrow landed, he did not see a single skeleton creature. In front of Knight Sorrow's eyes was a hazy world. The sky was gray and the ground was dark red. The air was filled with poisonous gas that corroded spiritual essence and soul-devouring evil wind that suppressed the power of the soul. The poisonous gas and soul-devouring evil wind gave off a very oppressive feeling of corrosion and suppression. Moreover, they constantly attacked one's body. Being blown by the wind was like being cut by a knife. Even with Knight Sorrow's physical strength, after enduring for a while, he gradually found it difficult to resist. I don't know the exact situation here. I don't have much time, so I have to hurry and find someone to ask. Time was of the essence, so Knight Sorrow did not dare to delay. But at this time, 73 suddenly spoke from the spatial artifact. My lord, have we really entered the Endless Bone region? 73, I have let you down. Don't worry, I will bring you out quickly. Knight Sorrow originally wanted to bring 73 with him as a witness to resolve the matter at the Jubao Pavilion. However, he did not expect to bring her into the Endless Bone region. My lord, my name is Yuan Shinro, but I was called 73 in the Jubao Pavilion. Now that I have left, I will return to my original name. Yuan Shinro said her name from the spatial artifact, and then said, Thank you, Lord Knight Sorrow, for rescuing me from the Jubao Pavilion. I have nothing to repay you with, so I will be your slave in the future. In Yuan Shinro's opinion, even if she entered the Endless Bone region, she would still be free. It was thousands of times better than being in the Jubao Pavilion. No need. Once I bring you out, you will regain your freedom completely. Saving you is just a convenience. Don't take it to heart. I don't have time to delay now, so I will not talk to you anymore. Knight Sorrow, who did not want to waste time chatting, suddenly saw someone sizing him up from a distant hillside. This person was Lung Chinchio, who he had just kicked in. All my divine essence has been corroded, and my divine soul power has been suppressed by more than half. The moment he saw Lung Chinchio, Knight Sorrow originally wanted to avoid him. After all, he was not a match for him. However, just as he was about to move, Knight Sorrow realized that he could not use his divine essence and divine soul power in the Endless Bone region. That is to say, cultivators can only rely on their physical strength in the Endless Bone region. Not only is my body strong, but I also have the power of merit. It seems that Lung Chinchio is not a match for me. After experimenting, Knight Sorrow realized that the power of merit could be used here. Moreover, there were not many people in the divine realm who practiced body refinement. Although he did not know Lung Chinchio well, Knight Sorrow guessed that with his sissy personality, he was not suitable for body refinement. Where are you going? Chapter 2397. Not good. This kid's body refinement is at the divine level. My body refinement level is very low. I'm definitely not his match in the Endless Bone realm. In the battle just now, Lung Chinchio, who had the upper hand, couldn't pierce Knight Sorrow's skin with his feather god spear. Therefore, he knew that Knight Sorrow was a body refinement maniac. Seeing Knight Sorrow rushing over, Lung Chinchio sucked in a breath of cold air and hurriedly ran to the other side of the hill. He couldn't use divine essence chi here, and couldn't fly at all. Want to run? Can you run? If not for your shamelessness and greed for the Samsara heavenly halberd, I wouldn't have fallen here. I can't go to the cave abode and save my family. Now, the tables had turned. Seeing that Lung Chinchou wanted to run, Night Sorrow sneered and nimbly shuttled through the wind. How can he be so fast? The distance between the two was getting closer and closer. For the first time in his life, Lung Chinchou felt regret. If he had just killed him back then, everything would have been fine. He wouldn't have to be in such a sorry state now. Not only was he reduced to the endless bone realm, but he was also chased up and down by a low-level feather god like prey. What is this? Lung Chinchou, who couldn't withstand the soul-devouring evil wind, suddenly discovered that a tornado-like black wind pillar had appeared in front of him. The black wind pillar reached the sky and had a diameter of tens of thousands of miles. It gave people a sense of apocalyptic violence. This black wind pillar is too terrifying. Even a high god might not be able to withstand it. There are pursuers behind me. What should I do? Lung Chinchou stopped at the foot of the mountain with a blank face, not knowing what to do. Why are you running? Weren't you very awesome when you were in the enforcement team? Night Sorrow, who had caught up, gave Lung Chinchou a slap without any explanation and sent him flying horizontally. In front of absolute physical strength, Lung Chinchou didn't even have the thought to resist. Moreover, he didn't have any divine essence chi to activate the defensive robe. He could only use his face to withstand Night Sorrow's palm. With a crisp sound, a red palm print appeared on Lung Chinchou's somewhat feminine face. Just kill me. Lung Chinchou, who was lying on the ground, didn't even have the intention to get up. He quietly waited for death. He knew that everything he said now would be in vain. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Although he hated Lung Chinchou to the bone, Night Sorrow didn't have the hobby of torturing people and was prepared to directly strangle him to death. As one of the 5 law enforcement captains in High Bay City, his status was second only to the 5 high gods. If Lung Chinchou were to be strangled to death, it would be a great humiliation. Stop. From this moment onward, the two of you are my servants. Don't kill each other. Just as Night Sorrow made his move, a rough roar came from the top of the mountain. This voice had an earth-shattering power. Yishang was stunned. A chance to live? No one wanted to die if they could live. Lung Chinchou, who had already accepted his fate, had a hint of joy in his eyes. Isn't it just being a servant? It's better than dying. What kind of look is that? Looking at Night Sorrow at the top of the mountain, he muttered with a strange expression. Night Sorrow discovered that the person standing at the top of the mountain was a muscular cultivator with a bare upper body and a tiger skin tied around his waist. This muscular cultivator had rock-like muscles and was obviously a body refiner. He only glanced at Night Sorrow before greedily staring at Lung Chinchou. He sized up Lung Chinchou as if he had discovered treasure. A moment later, Lung Chinchou realized that the muscular male cultivator's gaze was becoming more and more evil. He couldn't help but shiver as an ominous feeling flashed through his heart. I'm in a good mood today, so you can scram, but he's mine. The muscular cultivator swallowed his saliva and cursed Night Sorrow before heading straight for Lung Chinchou. Don't come over. Lung Chinchou, whose cheeks were red from Night Sorrow's slaps, looked rather pitiful. I really can't bear to watch. Night Sorrow, who could already imagine what was going to happen, couldn't help but shiver as he muttered, You can only blame yourself for being too beautiful. Kill me. I beg you to kill me. Lung Chinchou shouted with a trembling voice when he saw Night Sorrow turning and walking away and the muscular cultivator with a greedy gaze getting closer and closer. His body refinement level is at the middle-level feather god level. I'm no match for him. Enjoy the feeling of being trampled by a middle-level feather god. What was about to happen was too intense. Night Sorrow didn't hesitate at all and quickly walked into the distance. Perhaps because he realized that Lung Chinchou was truly devastatingly beautiful, the muscular cultivator shouted kindly, Walk along the edge of the mountain range, and you'll see a cultivator city 5 million miles away. Thanks. Night Sorrow, who was worried that he had nowhere to go, replied from afar and headed in the direction that the muscular cultivator pointed. After walking for about 20 miles, Night Sorrow suddenly heard Lung Chinchio let out an ear-piercing scream. Night Sorrow shrugged speechlessly. To cultivators, this was probably even more terrifying than having their divine soul destroyed. Is this a cultivator city in the Endless Bone realm? Night Sorrow walked to the location that the muscular cultivator pointed to, but didn't see any city. The ground was filled with all kinds of raging wind pillars. However, he could see a hazy valley hundreds of thousands of miles away on the opposite side of the wind pillars. There seemed to be some buildings in the valley. Unable to use the power of his divine soul to investigate, Night Sorrow could only make up his mind and rush toward the raging wind pillars. He had less than 2 years left. There was no room for hesitation at all. This wind is even more terrifying than a high god's attack. Needless to say, even a high god would find it difficult to withstand the wind pillars. Night Sorrow, who was moving through the wind pillars, felt as if his body was about to be torn apart just by being hit by the wind. Very soon, streaks of blood appeared on his body, making him look extremely hideous. But it's fine. It's not far away, and the wind pillars aren't moving fast. To Night Sorrow's relief, the wind pillars weren't moving fast. He didn't need to use too much energy to dodge them. Crack, crack. But at this moment, a skeleton suddenly emerged from the reddish-brown ground between the wind pillars. This skeleton was in the shape of a human. It was huge, about 10 times the height of an ordinary person. It held a bone knife about the same size as its body. After it emerged from the ground, it hesitated for a moment before slashing at him with its saber. Boom! The skeleton slashed at him, and Night Sorrow jumped with all his might. However, this jump brought him to a position very close to the wind pillars. He quickly ran to a relatively safe position. In this terrifying wind pillar, Night Sorrow didn't want to be in a stalemate with the skeleton. He prepared to quickly rush out of the wind pillar area. However, all kinds of skeletons kept emerging from the ground around him. There were human-shaped skeletons and beast-shaped skeletons. Each of them was huge and had amazing attack power. They were not inferior to ordinary feather gods. Chapter 2398. Looks like I can only kill my way out. Surrounded by all kinds of skeletons in the wind pillar area, and the number of skeletons kept increasing. Night Sorrow steeled his heart and decided to take out the blood-chilling, evil-slaying spear to fight. But Night Sorrow discovered that he could not use his body's divine essence, nor could he use his divine soul power. He could not take out any items from the vast Heaven Pagoda. No wonder the cultivators of High Bay City were silent when they heard about the Endless Bone Realm. Sure enough, it's not a good place. Then let's fight hand-to-hand. Without the slightest hesitation, Night Sorrow quickly rushed towards a human-shaped skeleton in front of him. He jumped and ruthlessly kicked out its leg. This human-shaped skeleton moved very slowly and did not dodge Night Sorrow's attack. However, its defense was especially strong, and the bones facing it were not broken. So hard. Night Sorrow, who originally wanted to break a leg bone and use it as a weapon, could not help but sigh with emotion. Although he sighed with his mouth, Night Sorrow's figure naturally did not stop. He climbed to the skeleton's shoulder and kicked at the skeleton's neck. Kacha! The giant skeleton's neck emitted a crisp sound, but only a small part was broken. Not good. At this time, a huge wind pillar swept over from not far away. Night Sorrow hurriedly jumped off the skeleton to dodge. The slow skeleton was directly swept into the wind pillar. That was close. If I was swept in by the wind pillar, I would be dead for sure. In addition, these skeletons' bodies are too hard and not easy to deal with, but their movements are slow. It's better to use speed to rush out bit by bit. Just as Night Sorrow paused for a moment, a giant skeleton tiger suddenly pounced at him, bringing with it cracking sounds. Night Sorrow wanted to dodge, but it was already too late. Subconsciously, Night Sorrow used the power of virtue to prop up an energy shield around his body. Boom! The giant skeleton tiger that was originally pouncing towards Night Sorrow suddenly changed direction and pounced on a giant skeleton python not far away. Following that, some other skeleton creatures all left Night Sorrow's range. Clearly, they were afraid of his power of virtue. These skeletons seem to be afraid of the power of virtue. I wonder if killing them will increase my power of virtue? The power of merit was one of Night Sorrow's trump cards. If he could find a way to improve it, he would be extremely happy. However, there is a pillar of wind here that even the high gods were wary of, so he did not dare to stay for too long. He ran straight ahead, out of the area covered by the pillar of wind. Let's enter the valley and see what's going on. As soon as he entered the Endless Bone Domain, Night Sorrow had no idea what was going on. Naturally, he wanted to find out more about this place. Walking into the valley, Night Sorrow discovered that there was indeed a gathering point for cultivators. However, it was not appropriate to call it a city, as the scale was too small. The number of cultivators was estimated to be around 100,000. Since he couldn't use his spiritual energy to check, he couldn't be sure. Are you new here? Night Sorrow had just walked into the valley when 6 or 7 cultivators surrounded him. Their chi and blood were very vigorous. Clearly, they had all cultivated body tempering techniques. However, these people's body tempering techniques had not reached the divine realm, so they could not compare to Night Sorrow. I just entered the Endless Bone Domain today. May I ask if there are any rules here? These cultivators did not have any intelligence in their eyes. In fact, they seemed a little dull. However, they all had a fierce aura. Night Sorrow asked politely. It was not that Night Sorrow was afraid, but that he was just being polite. Rules? There's only one rule here. Whoever has the strength has the final say. A burly man explained. Then, he scolded, "Your robe is made of good material. Take it off and give it to me. Otherwise, I'll crush your head." Night Sorrow had cultivated the leakless true body. Not only did his aura not leak, but it was also difficult for others to see his cultivation level. Most people could not see his body tempering level. This burly man clearly did not expect a newcomer to have a higher body tempering level than him. Give it to you? Can you afford it? Hearing the burly man's threat, Yishan smiled non-committally. He thought to himself, "Perfect, I don't know the situation. Now that I have a reason to attack, I can take care of these cultivators and force them to tell me the truth about the Endless Bone Realm." There was a huge divide between the God Rank Realm and those below the God Rank Realm. These 7 people were all at the body refinement realm below the God Rank Realm, and they weren't a match for Yishang at all. In an instant, they were beaten up by Yishang to the point they were looking for their teeth on the ground, and all of them wailed as they knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Who can tell me the situation of the Endless Bone Domain? Night Sorrow asked coldly. He did not want to waste any time. I'll tell you. The burly man who had threatened Night Sorrow was called the Python King. He was a python that had cultivated into a human body. He crawled forward on his knees and spoke. There are 4 cultivator enclaves in the Endless Bone Domain. The rulers of these 4 enclaves are all half-step great divinity body tempering experts. With their level of body tempering, they have every right to leave the Endless Bone Domain. Instead, they've been acting like local tyrants. Each of them commands over 100,000 cultivators. Their strength is about the same. The area we're in belongs to Master Feng Ling. How can we leave the Endless Bone Domain? The Python King got to the point in one sentence. Night Sorrow perked up. There's a 7-story bone pagoda in the center of the Endless Bone Domain. It's called the Sky-Reaching Bone Pagoda. If you can pass the 4th floor, you'll be transported out, the Python King explained. What level of body tempering does one have to reach to pass the 4th floor? Night Sorrow asked. The 1st floor requires one to be a lesser divine feather, the 2nd an intermediate divine feather, the 3rd an upper divine feather, and the 4th one beyond that. As for beyond the 4th floor, I don't know, the Python King explained truthfully. Then why don't they leave? What's the meaning behind this? Do they just want to be local tyrants in the Endless Bone Domain? The divine realm is so vast. Is there need to waste time here? Knight Sorrow pressed. In response to your question, my lord, there are 3 reasons for them to stay here. First, they'll be recognized by the Bone Pagoda if they pass the 7th floor. It's said that the Bone Pagoda is something even divine sovereigns would covet. The Python King spoke so quickly that he almost couldn't catch his breath. He took 2 deep breaths before continuing. Second, body tempering improves much faster in the pagoda than in the divine realm. They probably want to reach the great divinity level before returning to the divine realm. What's the 3rd reason? Both reasons were valid, but Knight Sorrow was curious. If they'd reached the half-step great divinity level, why didn't they return to the divine realm? It wouldn't be too difficult to return to the divine realm and enter the endless bone domain. They could just stir up some trouble in Seaside City and be done with it. The 3rd reason is that cultivators who enter the endless bone domain once will be rejected by the Bone Pagoda the 2nd time, the Python King explained. So that's how it is. Then I understand. Yishang nodded slightly and continued to let the Python King talk about other aspects. The Python King then explained everything that he could think of for now. What surprised Knight Sorrow the most was that the laws of time in the endless bone domain were different from those in the divine realm. Chapter 2399. There's still more than a year before I enter the Jinyuan Divine Lord's Cave. That means I have at least 10,000 years in the Endless Bone region. As long as I leave the Endless Bone region within 10,000 years, there's still hope for Grandfather, Misty, and Luo. How could Knight Sorrow not be surprised by the Zyacodal King's words? In a good mood, he said, "Get lost, all of you. I won't pursue this matter. If you offend me again, I'll kill you." "Thank you for your mercy, sir. Thank you for your mercy, sir." The cultivators were stunned at first, then quickly kowtowed to express their gratitude. Is that necessary? Knight Sorrow was a little surprised. Most of the people in the Endless Bone region were criminals exiled from High Bay City. Their characters were not good to begin with. After living in a repressive environment for so many years, many of them were perverted and took pleasure in torturing others. "Sir, I'm willing to follow you. I'll be your lackey." The others quickly left, but the Zyacodal King remained kneeling on the ground. "Are you worthy of being my subordinate?" Knight Sorrow asked. He could tell that the Zyacodal King had something to say. "Sir, I'll be honest with you. I know where to find a body-tempering manual that can help one reach the high god level." Unable to transmit his voice, the Zyacodal King could only whisper, "Oh, a body-tempering manual that can help one reach the high god level? Are you sure?" Knight Sorrow asked. Yes, I'm sure," the Zyacodal King said quickly. "Tell me the details." Knight Sorrow was naturally very interested in a body-tempering manual that could help one reach the high god level. This was one of the things he needed the most. "Sir, there are many areas in the Endless Bone region that cultivators have not explored. When I first entered the Endless Bone region, I landed in an isolated valley." The Zyacodal King slowly explained the situation. It turned out that the valley he landed in was actually a huge formation. On the altar in the center of the formation was a body-tempering manual that could help one reach the high god level. However, there were too many skeletons around the body refining art. In addition, the astral winds were too fierce. He was too weak to get close. After a while, he gave up on the idea and left the safe area of the magic array. He came to the Endless Bone realm. How can you be so sure that the body-tempering tome can help a cultivator reach the high deity level? After the Zyacodal King explained everything, Knight Sorrow voiced his doubts. The Zyacodal King hesitated for a moment before replying. Actually, there was a half-step high god in the formation at the time. He said himself. Then why didn't he go get the body refinement art? Knight Sorrow asked with a frown, realizing that things weren't as simple as they seemed. That lord did try to retrieve it, but he died inside. I saw him turn into a skeleton with my own eyes. The Zyacodal King said bitterly. Even half-step high god body refinement cultivators died in there. Are you trying to screw me over? Knight Sorrow scolded. No. My lord, don't get angry. Listen to me. The Zyakotl king gestured for him to calm down. My lord, you've just entered and you're already a lesser divine feather. That's the first in history. If you cultivate for a few cycles, you'll easily break through to the half-step high god level. When you try again, there's a good chance you'll get the body refinement art. If you get it and cultivate for a few cycles, my lord, you might be able to... Stop! I don't have that much time. Let's stop here. How do you usually raise your body refinement levels? Night Sorrow knew that it was impossible for every cultivator to have a body-tempering tome, but the cultivators here were clearly at a very high level, much stronger than those in the God realm. My lord, if you kill the skeletons in the Endless Bone realm, you'll get their crystal cores. They could be used to exchange for body-tempering tome and cultivation time in the Bone Pagoda, the Zyakotl king explained. But none of the body refinement arts you can exchange for can help you reach the high god level. I see. It seems that the Endless Bone realm isn't a prison, but a holy land for body tempering. It's a blessing in disguise. Night Sorrow murmured, then asked, Where's the Bone Pagoda? Take me there and have a look. You've helped me a lot, so stay by my side from now on. As long as you don't do anything evil, I'll do my best to protect you. Night Sorrow wasn't the type to turn his back on others. He'd gotten too much information from the Zyakotl king, so he decided to take care of him in the Bone realm. Thank you, my lord. But my lord, the Bone Pagoda is under the control of the 4 lord subordinates. Every time you enter, you'll have to hand over a crystal core. I don't have any, the Zyakotl king said excitedly after receiving Night Sorrow's promise. The 4 powerhouses controlled the safe zones around the Bone Pagoda. Anyone who wanted to enter or cultivate in the safe zones would have to hand over a crystal core. Although the Zyakotl king was an upper-level feather god, his body-tempering realm was not yet immortal. It would take him tens of millions of years to cultivate in the Bone Pagoda. I see. Where can I find a lone skeleton? Take me there quickly. Night Sorrow didn't want to waste time and ordered. My lord, there's no need to rush. We'll be in the Endless Bone realm for countless years anyway. The soul-devouring evil wind is blowing strongly outside the valley. Why don't I take you to familiarize yourself with East Valley City first? The Zyakotl king couldn't help but shudder when he heard that Night Sorrow wanted to go out to hunt skeletons. The soul-devouring evil wind had been stronger recently, so it was very dangerous to go out. This was also why there were so many cultivators in East Valley City recently. Night Sorrow said, It's fine. I just came in from outside the valley. I'm fine too. But my lord, I'm weak. I'll die if I go out rashly. The Zyakotl king said honestly. He would definitely die if he went out with his current strength. Then tell me, where's the best place to hunt skeletons? Night Sorrow still had lingering fears about the area where the evil wind was raging. He didn't want to take the risk. My lord, I have a brief map of the surrounding area. Take it and use it. With your strength, it shouldn't be too dangerous to go to some of the areas to hunt skeletons. You'll be fine as long as you're wary of other cultivators. The Python King took out a leather map from his bosom and handed it to Yishang as he carefully instructed. You're quite sincere. Don't worry, I won't mistreat you. Wait for me in East Valley City. Night Sorrow was quite satisfied with the Zyakotl king's performance. He took the map and glanced at it. Then he turned and left the valley. Chapter 2400. As soon as he walked out of the valley, Night Sorrow felt pain on his skin. The soul-devouring evil wind was even fiercer than when he first arrived. Even if he was not in the area of the wind pillars, the soul-devouring evil wind was not something that ordinary people could withstand. With Night Sorrow's body refinement level as a low-level feather god, he could barely withstand it. Although it was not easy to move in the wind, he did not stop and went straight to the stone forest marked on the map. As he got closer, Night Sorrow noticed that the stone forest was at the edge of a desert. The ground and the air of the stone forest were filled with sand blown up by the soul-devouring evil wind. There was not a single cultivator around. There is indeed a lone skeleton here. As soon as he entered the stone forest formed by the weathered stone pillars, Night Sorrow found a human-shaped skeleton in less than 100 miles. Night Sorrow rushed toward the giant skeleton with a bone knife. Using his body to fight was his favorite rhythm. It was like returning to the primitive wildness. Night Sorrow did not use the power of virtue at the beginning. This was his trump card and could not be used casually. Clang! After dodging the huge skeleton's bone blade, Night Sorrow's fist landed on the skeleton's leg bone. This time, there was a loud clang as the skeleton's leg bone caved in. The punch had some effect. Night Sorrow didn't know where the skeleton's weakness was, so he used his advantage in speed to attack continuously. After fighting for a few hours, he finally shattered the skull of the giant skeleton. After the skull was shattered, the skeleton fell down and turned into a light blue crystal core the size of a fingernail. At the same time, a golden energy slowly surrounded Night Sorrow's body. After absorbing it, Night Sorrow found that his power of virtue had increased slightly. Hunting skeletons can increase my power of virtue. It seems that this is definitely my blessed land. I can become stronger quickly. Night Sorrow was very happy. Then he picked up the crystal core on the ground. A cool feeling hit him, and he felt that his palm was quite comfortable. He muttered, "Is this the currency of the Endless Bone region? Why does it contain so much energy?" Night Sorrow, who did not know the reason, did not think too much about it, and continued to attack. In the past year and a half, he had accumulated 1,000 fingernail-sized crystal cores by hunting lone skeletons. Night Sorrow's power of merit had also increased by 1,000th. He was one step closer to becoming a mid-level feather god. 1,000 crystal cores should be enough to take a look at the bone tower, right? Night Sorrow had already confirmed that killing skeletons would allow him to accumulate virtue power, so he stopped attacking. He returned to East Valley City and found a Zyakobal king who had left the address. At this moment, the Python King and a female cultivator were doing primitive exercises on the stone bed, moaning and groaning. My lord. Seeing Night Sorrow return with a package, the Python King quickly stopped moving and handed the female cultivator a crystal core the size of a fingertip, telling her to leave. After the female cultivator left, the Python King got up and asked Night Sorrow to sit down. "My lord, you've returned from a hunt. How was your harvest?" "It's these fingernail-sized crystal cores, exactly 1,000 of them." Night Sorrow opened the package and handed it to the Python King. As a newcomer, he did not know the exact value of the crystal cores. "These are crystal cores of low-level feather gods. 1,000, my lord. You hunted 1,000 skeletons in just over a year?" The Python King was shocked. Generally, it was very difficult for a low-level feather god cultivator to hunt skeletons of the same level. Just as he finished speaking, the Python King came to a realization. "Ah, I know. My lord must have killed other cultivators." Yes. Is it enough to take a look at the bone tower?" Night Sorrow did not want to talk nonsense and did not explain. Enough. Of course it's enough. Every cultivator who wants to enter the range of the bone tower can pay 20 fingernail-sized crystal cores. The rest can be exchanged for some cultivation time in the bone tower. As for the divine-level body tempering manuals, it's not enough. The Python King explained excitedly. Night Sorrow had obtained 1,000 crystal cores so quickly. This meant that he was very capable. Perhaps he would have a chance to use him in the future. The soul-devouring evil wind is still blowing outside. You can't go to the bone tower either, right? Night Sorrow continued to ask. With enough crystal cores, he was relieved. 10,000 years was not long. He had to seize every moment. "Yes, my lord. I can't go out. However, the bone tower is easy to find. Walk out of the valley and keep walking forward. You'll see it after walking for about 5 million miles." The Python King said, "All right, pay attention to that female cultivator in the future. She's not a good person." Night Sorrow cultivated the power of merit and was very good at judging people. The female cultivator who had just left gave him an uncomfortable feeling. "Haha, my lord, it's nothing. She's a vixen. She doesn't have much strength. She earns crystal cores by serving all kinds of cultivators. As you know, there's no other fun in this endless bone realm." When the soul-devouring evil wind is raging, it's normal to find a female cultivator for fun. The Python King chuckled, revealing an expression that all men understood. You're on your own. After throwing 20 crystal cores the size of a fingernail to the Python King, Night Sorrow left the stone house and prepared to go straight to the bone tower to see what it was like. Ha! Friend, please wait. However, before he could walk out of the valley, several cultivators called out to Night Sorrow. It's you. Night Sorrow turned around and saw that it was the female cultivator who had just been done by the Python King. Together with her were 2 male cultivators at the lower level of Feather God. After realizing what was going on, Night Sorrow frowned and asked, "What do you want?" "What do we want?" "Of course, we want you to hand over the package in your hand. I didn't expect a newcomer like you to be so capable. You got 1,000 crystal cores so quickly." The female cultivator, who was called a vixen, smiled charmingly. "You didn't expect it, did you? I can smell the number of crystal cores." Her strength was very weak, barely reaching the half-step divine realm and body refinement, and it was the kind that was very superficial. "You think you can kill me with just a few of you? I advise you to go back and do what you have to do." After observing for a while, Night Sorrow found that their human forms were only transformed with a secret technique. They were very pure beast cultivators. The bodies of beast cultivators were generally very strong, but they were no match for him. "I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Hurry up and hand over the crystal cores. Otherwise, you'll be killed without mercy. This is a world where the strong are respected. Don't make a mistake." One of the male cultivators with a dark face threatened impatiently. On their side, there were 2 low-level Feather God beasts on the level of Feather God. They never failed to kill human cultivators of the same level. "Sigh, I didn't want to waste time, but you just had to force me. I've been busy for more than a year, and this barbecue won't make a difference." Chapter 24:01. Ever since he ascended to the divine realm, Night Sorrow had been so busy that he never relaxed. He barely had time to eat, drink, or drink tea. He was indeed mentally exhausted. He didn't know how many years he would have to stay in the endless bone realm. When he encountered a demon beast that wanted to rob him, he immediately thought of barbecuing it. "Bastard, you think you can barbecue us? I'm going to rip out your heart and liver." The black-faced male cultivator was enraged by Night Sorrow's words. He roared and transformed into his true form. He was a black bear that was almost 1,000 feet tall. "Howl!" The other male cultivator also transformed into his true form. He was a green-furred wolf demon that was slightly smaller than the black bear. "I heard that wolf meat has a sour smell, but you're a divine tier wolf demon. You shouldn't have that smell, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to eat it. This black bear is not bad. Barbecued bear paws will definitely be delicious." Night Sorrow looked at the wolf demon and then at the bear demon. Although his physique was at the same level as theirs, there was still a difference between their physiques. Moreover, he could use the power of merit. It shouldn't be too difficult to deal with them. At this moment, Night Sorrow's eyes suddenly lit up. He smiled and said, "You said wine? You have wine here?" Hearing the black bear's words, he was overjoyed. He thought that since cultivators couldn't use spatial artifacts in the Endless Bone Realm, there wouldn't be anything to eat or drink. "Wine, yes, but your side dish." Seeing Night Sorrow's nonchalant attitude, the black bear let out a roar and slapped at Night Sorrow with its paw. This was the battle in the Endless Bone Realm. It was simple and direct. "Let me see how strong your body is." Night Sorrow was not an ordinary low-level divine, feather god, physique cultivator. He had the Merit Dao body and the Primordial Dao body. His body was not inferior to the average mid-level divine, feather god physique cultivator. This was also one of the reasons why he could easily kill skeletons of the same level. Facing the black bear's huge paw, Night Sorrow punched out and met it head-on. With a boom, the black bear was sent flying by the punch. It was easier to deal with than the skeletons that Night Sorrow had hunted. "With your ability, you still want to kill me? You really don't know the meaning of death." Night Sorrow didn't stop after his attack succeeded. He flew into the air and started punching and kicking the flying black bear. He could handle this kind of battle with ease. What kind of strength is this? How could this human cultivator's body and strength be so terrifying? I'm afraid that his physical talent isn't inferior to some of the legendary figures. The wolf demon and fox demon who had wanted to attack were all scared silly. The black bear was the strongest among them, but it was not a match for Night Sorrow. "My lord, please spare my life. Lord, please spare my life." The wolf demon transformed back into his human form and knelt on the ground, kowtowing. "Sir, I can make you happy. Please spare me." The vixen also knelt on the ground and seductively begged for mercy. "If you have the intention to kill me and snatch my crystal core, then you should be prepared to be roasted." After killing the black bear in a few moves, Night Sorrow took off a huge bear paw and threw it aside, killing the wolf demon and fox demon. Night Sorrow didn't want to be merciful to his enemies. If he showed mercy, these people might harm the Python King. Then, Night Sorrow called the Python King over and asked him to help clean up the ingredients. He found some good wine and started a fire while drinking, officially starting the barbecue. "The taste is really good. I feel that no matter what realm I cultivate to, I can't eat and drink less." Not long after, the smell of barbecue floated in the air. Night Sorrow chewed on a piece of bear paw meat and drank a mouthful of good wine, feeling very refreshed. "Sigh, my lord, the black bear and wolf demon are nothing. But the vixen has backing. There are several male cultivators who need her, but they are strong and not afraid of the soul-devouring evil wind. Now, they're all out hunting skeletons. I think you should leave quickly and hide in the bone tower." The Python King, who was trembling in fear and didn't dare to take a bite, sighed and reminded. In the Endless Bone region, female cultivators were very rare. This vixen had many lovers. Now that she was killed, there might be cultivators looking for trouble with Night Sorrow. "It's fine. There's nothing that a barbecue can't solve. If one meal isn't enough, then two," Night Sorrow said indifferently. The feeling of Taodai made him feel a long-lost human taste, and he had a deeper understanding of many things. He judged that those who could fancy a vixen like her shouldn't be experts and wouldn't be a big threat to him. "Sigh, my lord is so confident. What should I do?" The Python King had a sad look. After being forced to take a bite of the bear paw by Night Sorrow, his eyes suddenly lit up. "Delicious. It's so delicious. In the Endless Bone region, I have already forgotten the taste of the real thing." Then, the two of them ate heartily at the entrance of the valley. Many cultivators nearby were attracted by the fragrance and gathered to watch from afar, not daring to approach. However, this didn't include a very wretched little old man. "Io, kid, you have a lot of ideas. I like it. This old man has been bored in the Endless Bone region for so many years. Why didn't I think of eating barbecue?" The little old man winked and rubbed his hands as he walked towards Night Sorrow. "Brother, sit. What do you want to eat? Help yourself." Night Sorrow raised his head to look at the old man and was slightly surprised. This old man was actually a powerhouse at the upper-level Feather God level. Night Sorrow, who originally couldn't finish eating, naturally wouldn't make trouble with a powerhouse for a bit of food. "Kid, not bad. You know how to do things. You have a future. Come, try this old brother's wine." The little old man handed Night Sorrow a wine gourd, then took some bear paw meat and barbecued it. He didn't like to eat wolf meat either. "Good wine. How should I address you? This wine is too precious. I can't drink too much." Night Sorrow, who drank a big mouthful of wine from the wine gourd, felt his whole body heat up, and his whole body felt comfortable. It seemed that his comprehension had improved a lot. "Hee, I don't remember old brother's name clearly, but I think it's Mo Yuqian. This wine is called Dao Comprehension Wine, and is a good thing produced in the Endless Bone region. It is produced once every 100 years, and you'll have to go through a lot of fighting to obtain it." The old man sighed. "Old brother, how does the Endless Bone region produce such good wine?" Night Sorrow was puzzled. There are many good things in the Endless Bone region. The most precious is the Genesis essence. This Genesis essence is a treasure for body refining, and the Tao Comprehension wine is a companion of the Genesis essence. Mo Yu-Chien said as he tore into the bear meat, his mouth full of oil, "Little brother, it's a pity that your strength is a little lacking. If you can reach the upper-level feather god level, I can bring you to the battle 70 years later. Even if you can't get anything good, you'll still be able to accumulate some experience." Chapter 2402. Yishang had seen the Genesis essence of heaven and earth before in the records he had purchased in the God realm. It was a rare treasure that was extremely difficult to produce. Even a drop of it was extremely rare. It was very effective in tempering one's body. Cultivators who used the Genesis essence could even be compared to the ancestral dragon in terms of body tempering talent. You don't have to reach the upper feather god level. Anyone can participate in the competition. It's just that the competition is too cruel. Those below the upper feather god level will die miserably. How can I bear to harm you when you treat me to a barbecue? Mo Yu-Chien smacked his lips. So it's like that. Looks like I'll have to work hard for the next 70 years. The Genesis essence was an opportunity that could only be encountered by chance. Knight Sorrow, who wanted to increase his strength, naturally did not want to miss it. After asking a few more questions about the Endless Bone Realm, Knight Sorrow left for the Bone Tower. Along the way, he hunted skeletons and killed robbers. When Knight Sorrow arrived near the Bone Tower, he had already accumulated 1,500 crystal cores the size of a fingernail. When he was 100,000 miles away from the Bone Tower, the soul-devouring evil wind gradually weakened. When he was 50,000 miles away, it completely disappeared. What replaced it was a scene of gentle wind and bright sunshine. The sky was no longer hazy. He could see white clouds and even an oasis. He did not know if it was suitable for cultivation, but it was definitely suitable for cultivators to live in. It was here that he saw a slightly larger residential area, as well as the toll collectors that the Python King had mentioned. If you want to enter the area under Lord Feng Ling's jurisdiction, you have to pay 20 standard crystal cores. If you want to be protected, you have to pay 200,000 crystal cores every 10,000 years. Just as he reached the periphery of the buildings, a small group of cultivators surrounded Knight Sorrow and collected the fee. Here are 20 crystal cores. Keep them well. After asking, Knight Sorrow found out that the crystal cores of the lower feather god level skeletons were standard crystal cores. After handing over 20 crystal cores, he raised his head and looked at the towering bone tower not far away. He prepared to walk in. At this moment, a feminine voice suddenly called out to him. "Knight Sorrow, you didn't expect this, did you? We can still meet." The feminine voice trembled slightly. "Lung Chinchio, it's actually you." Knight Sorrow turned around and saw that the person who stopped him was Lung Chinchio. At this moment, Lung Chinchio was wearing a red dress designed for female cultivators. Her lips were painted red, and her hair was also in a hairstyle unique to female cultivators. Her body was slightly trembling, and her eyes were filled with murderous coldness. "It's me. Today is the day you die." Lung Chinchio's body refinement level was still very low, but he was very confident. "Sister, you're thinking too much. It's not that easy to kill me. You don't have that strength." Knight Sorrow didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Lung Chinchio's appearance that was neither male nor female. He couldn't help but shiver. "Of course I'm not enough, but my husband is an expert at the upper feather god level. When he rushes over, you're dead for sure," Lung Chinchio said resentfully. Only Lung Chinchio himself knew what he had experienced and what he felt in his heart. "Husband, you changed so quickly. Besides, why should I wait for him to come? Goodbye." Lung Chinchio's husband wasn't around, so Knight Sorrow hurriedly slipped away and headed straight for the Bone Tower. He was a little disgusted by that strong man. He thought that if he couldn't beat him, wouldn't he become the second Lung Chinchio? "Knight Sorrow, I don't believe that you can stay in the Bone Tower forever." Watching Knight Sorrow enter the Bone Tower, Lung Chinchio roared at the top of his lungs. "I wonder what kind of tricks this Bone Tower has. If I can cultivate, I have to increase my strength. Otherwise, I might be at a disadvantage when facing those two freaks. Knight Sorrow judged that although his body was special and he could use the power of virtue, he shouldn't be a match for that male cultivator. Therefore, he had to increase his strength in the bone tower. If he was defeated by that kind of person, Knight Sorrow didn't dare to imagine the consequences. After thinking for a moment, he couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. So the bone tower relies on puppets to operate. Walking into the bone tower, Knight Sorrow saw that the managers of the bone tower were all slow-moving puppets. Picking up an ancient book that introduced the bone tower, Knight Sorrow learned that there were all kinds of body-tempering cultivation rooms in the bone tower. He could use crystal cores to exchange for cultivation time. All kinds of body-tempering books could also be exchanged with crystal cores. Divine body-tempering books were quite expensive. Almost every one of them required millions of crystal cores. The 1,000 crystal cores in Knight Sorrow's hands were simply not enough. There were some special secret techniques that weren't cheap to exchange for. Knight Sorrow couldn't afford it, so he didn't think much about it. As for the entrance to the trial, it was also in the tower, but in a different area. He didn't want to try it for the time being. Let's exchange for some time in the lightning body-tempering cultivation room first. The price of the body-tempering cultivation room wasn't high. Knight Sorrow spent 1,000 crystal cores in exchange for 10 years of cultivation time in the lightning body-tempering cultivation room. After handing over the crystal cores, Knight Sorrow received a sparkling jade token. Together with a female cultivator who also exchanged for 10 years of cultivation time, they walked into their respective cultivation rooms. The lightning in this cultivation room could be adjusted to normal, difficult, hell, and nirvana levels. It's indeed very suitable for body tempering. In the lightning body tempering room, Knight Sorrow read the description of the cultivation room and couldn't help but sigh. The lightning in this cultivation room was different from the lightning tribulation. After being baptized by lightning, the cultivator's body would become stronger. Let's see what the effects of the normal level are. Knight Sorrow pressed the normal level's control switch, and a thick black cloud immediately floated over the huge cultivation room. Then, bolts of lightning as thick as bowls continuously fell, striking Knight Sorrow's body. It seemed a bit too weak. Soon, Knight Sorrow discovered that these bolts of lightning didn't have much effect on his body tempering. Thus, he adjusted it to difficult, but it still didn't have much effect. Knight Sorrow gritted his teeth and directly adjusted it to the highest level, nirvana level. Crack! A muffled thunder came from the sky, but there was a sound, but the lightning didn't fall. What's going on? Knight Sorrow looked up at the sky and found that the lightning was rolling in the black clouds, but it didn't fall. It should be brewing a more powerful lightning. After waiting for an entire month, the lightning in the black clouds finally quieted down. However, it was only quiet for a moment, and the lightning that was as fine as a spider's web fell continuously, striking Knight Sorrow's body. What a powerful lightning! Knight Sorrow didn't even experience this kind of lightning when he helped the Samsara Heavenly Halberd transcend the forbidden lightning tribulation. Soon, cracks began to appear on his body from a bombardment. It's said that the longer you persist, the greater the harvest. The nirvana-level lightning is really terrifying. In the surging lightning, Knight Sorrow's body was like a blade of grass blown by the wind, swaying constantly, and he couldn't raise his head at all. The cracks on his body became more and more terrifying, and the spread was very frightening. However, Knight Sorrow still persisted. Chapter 24:03. In the end, Knight Sorrow persisted for a full year. He was afraid that if he continued, his foundation would be damaged, so he stopped. As soon as the thunder stopped, the environment of the cultivation room changed dramatically. Some transparent energy visible to the naked eye poured into the cultivation room from all directions. Nourished by this energy, the cracks on Knight Sorrow's body began to heal little by little. 2 years later, Knight Sorrow's injuries were all healed. His body refining level had also increased significantly. From the basic level of a low-level feather god to 10% of a low-level feather god, he was much closer to the middle-level feather god. Cultivating here is really twice the result with half the effort. I don't even have a divine level body refining technique, but my body refining level can still increase so quickly. Knight Sorrow, who had an infinite desire for strength, did not delay at all. He activated the Nirvana level thunder again and accepted the baptism and destruction of the thunder. That kind of pain was heart-wrenching, but it was not as painful as the pain of his family. In order to become stronger, in order to protect his family, Knight Sorrow could endure any kind of pain. However, using this method to increase the level of his body refining level had a decreasing effect. After 10 years of tempering, Knight Sorrow's body refining level had increased to 20% of a low-level feather god's level. This speed could not be compared to the first time he used the thunder, but overall, Knight Sorrow was very satisfied. It could even be said that they were shocked. However, Knight Sorrow, who walked out of the cultivation room, shocked them even more. In the cultivation room next door, the female cultivator Jingyun, who had also cultivated for 10 years, was still at the basic level of a low-level feather god. Her body was just a little stronger. The two of them walked out of the cultivation room at the same time. Jingyun, who had some impression of Knight Sorrow, noticed Knight Sorrow's improvement and was so shocked that she could not speak. She asked curiously, "What level of thunder did you use to refine your body?" "Nirvana level, why?" Knight Sorrow answered truthfully. He was not very familiar with some things in the Endless Bone territory. He thought that the thunder was not too scary. "Nirvana level. It's the Nirvana level. Do you want to die? No wonder you can improve so quickly in 10 years. You really are a monster." Jingyun's face was filled with shock. She was only using normal rank. Then, she said, "My name is Jingyun. What's your name? Can we form a team in the future?" "I'm Knight Sorrow. I'm afraid it's not convenient to team up with you. There's an enemy with a body refinement level of a high-tier feather god blocking my path. Lung Chinchio and her husband were definitely waiting outside." Knight Sorrow naturally did not wish to harm anyone. "Upper feather god, you can't hold on. Perhaps I can help." She handed Knight Sorrow a seashell and said, "This is a twin seashell from the Endless Bone realm. It can be used to transmit sound to each other. If you have any trouble, just call me." In fact, Jingyun had a backer. Otherwise, a good-looking female cultivator like her would definitely not have her freedom in the Endless Bone domain. Perhaps it had already been taken over by some experts. "Thank you, but not for the time being. When you are in trouble, you can also try to call me. I will do my best to help." The other party was very friendly. Knight Sorrow did not act cold. He took the seashell and said a few words before turning to leave and walking out of the sky-reaching bone pagoda. His strength had increased. He felt that even if he could not defeat Lung Chinchio's husband, he should be able to escape. Although his body refinement level had only increased by 20%, his strength had increased greatly. As soon as he walked out of the bone pagoda, Knight Sorrow saw Lung Chinchio waiting not far away. "You're finally out." Seeing Knight Sorrow's figure, Lung Chinchio said fiercely. Then he looked at the strong man beside him and said, "Husband, help me kill him." "Is that him?" "Simple. He's just a weakling with a low-tier feather god body refinement level." The strong male cultivator was called Rocky Mountain. His muscles were like rocks, giving off a sense of strength. His body refinement level was at the genuine high-tier feather god level. "You want to kill me?" It might not be easy. Facing Lung Chinchio and Rocky Mountain, he mocked. Lung Chinchio, you were once the law enforcement captain of High Bay City, an influential figure. How could you accept being molested by another man? I really can't figure it out. You haven't experienced it, so you naturally don't understand. I still have to thank you for letting me find my true self. But today, you will die without a doubt. A trace of coldness flashed across the brows of the cross-dressing Lung Chinchio. But when he turned his head to look at Rocky Mountain, it turned into worship again. This stone man knows demonic arts? Or is Lung Chinchio too despicable? The other party's performance almost made Night Sorrow collapse. He thought to himself that this was a little too disgusting. It was better to fight. It was a good opportunity to test the improvement of these 10 years. If you want to kill me, then make your move. Night Sorrow was clear that in the area of the 4 powerhouses, only by paying a high price would one be protected. He did not have this kind of treatment at all. The other party could totally make a move against him. You're quite confident? It's just that your body refinement level is only at the low-tier Feather God level. It's not worth me making a move. Rocky Mountain had some self-restraint and did not make a move directly. Instead, he looked at a subordinate beside him and said, "Yuan Hui, go and help me kill him." "Yes, boss." The male cultivator, called Yuan Hui, was a mid-level Feather God. His body was not as exaggerated as Rocky Mountain's, but he was still taller than Night Sorrow by a head. Hearing Rocky Mountain's words, he took a few steps forward and looked at Night Sorrow. "You're just a low-level Feather God, yet you have the confidence to challenge our boss. You're too naive. Watch how I cut you down. Whether I'm overconfident or not, we'll know in a fight." Night Sorrow did not care about a mid-level Feather God, but he had already secretly decided to use the power of virtue against Yuan Hui. "Good. Then I'll teach you a lesson in blood." Yuan Hui had an explosive personality. With a roar, he charged toward Night Sorrow and used the strength of his body to punch out. He could not use his divine essence or soul strength at all. The battles in the Endless Bone realm were much more primitive than in the God realm. "Good. Then let's have a good fight." In the face of Yuan Hui's ferocious punch, Night Sorrow felt a surge of vigor that he hadn't felt in a long time. He also punched back. Strength against strength. Crack! The two collided, and Yuan Hui was pushed back dozens of miles. Cracks appeared on the back of his hand and arm. Very strong. Night Sorrow, who had the upper hand, did not take half a step back. In the God realm, he could easily kill a mid-level Feather God, but this Yuan Hui gave him a feeling that he would not be easy to deal with. He did not suffer any fatal injuries. This kid is quite strong. If I'd known, I would have used my full strength. Yuan Hui, who had suffered a loss, cursed and charged forward once more. This time, I will use my full strength. Prepare to die. You might not be able to force me to use my full strength, even if you use your full strength. In the face of this aggressive and explosive attack, Night Sorrow still didn't move. He waited in place. Die. The speed of a God Realm cultivator was not inferior to that of an ordinary God Realm cultivator. In the blink of an eye, Yuan Hui was in front of Night Sorrow. This time, Night Sorrow, who had used 70% of his strength, was on par with Yuan Hui. What? He's so strong. Yuan Hui, who had not gained the upper hand, was a little stunned. He had used his full strength, but he did not know if his opponent had used his full strength. There were many people watching, and he felt that he had lost face. He roared angrily, "Kid, this time you will die without a doubt." Secret Art Berserk. Chapter 2404. Yuan Hui did not deliberately enlarge his body, but after using the secret technique, his body immediately gave off an explosive feeling of power. In an instant, his aura gave off an incomparably powerful feeling, like a wild beast that had gone berserk. This is the secret technique exchanged from the Sky-Reaching Bone Pagoda. Night Sorrow had read the description of the Sky-Reaching Bone Pagoda and knew that this secret technique was worth 5 million standard crystal cores. It could instantly increase the strength of a body cultivator by 3 times. However, after the secret technique ended, the cultivator would also suffer a considerable backlash and would need to recuperate for many years to recover. I won't use the power of merit for the time being. Let's test the strength of my current body. Night Sorrow knew that after the other party used the secret technique, he was definitely not a match for him in terms of strength. He wanted to test his limits. After all, although body cultivators were of similar levels, the attributes of their bodies were different. He did not believe that he would be killed in an instant. This was the confidence that Night Sorrow had accumulated over a long period of time. You didn't dodge and chose to continue to fight me head-on. You're courting death. Go to hell. Yuan Hui, who attacked again, couldn't help but feel a little angry. As an ape cultivator, his temper was quite fiery. This time, he used the most primitive attack of the ape race. He jumped into the air and directly smashed down with his fists. The thunderous momentum was quite terrifying. So you're an ape. No wonder your body refinement talent is so high. Facing this attack, Night Sorrow did not panic. This time, he did not hold back at all. He erupted with the strongest power in his body and collided with Yuan Hui. Boom! Under the collision of the two, a huge pit was smashed into the ground. The pit was full of smoke and dust. Who won? Who won? The pit was very quiet. There was no sound at all. Since they couldn't use their divine soul power to probe, they couldn't see the situation in the deep pit clearly. Thus, they couldn't remain calm. This was originally a battle with a difference in cultivation level, but now there was suspense. He should be dead this time, right? Lung Chinxiu said with hatred in his eyes. He wanted to completely bid farewell to the past. Seeing Night Sorrow reminded him of many unhappy memories. No, both of them are still alive. This Night Sorrow isn't an ordinary feather god. Stone Mountain shook his head. Others couldn't see clearly, but he knew what had happened. Only then did Lung Chinxiu see the result clearly when the smoke and dust in the pit dispersed. Night Sorrow was smashed into the deep pit, but he only suffered some minor injuries. Not even a single bone was broken. Yuan Hui, on the other hand, was badly mutilated from his arms down. Obviously, his fists had been smashed. It was obvious that he had the advantage in terms of strength, but Night Sorrow's body was stronger. You've won. Kill me. Yuan Hui didn't expect that he would lose to an opponent whose body refinement realm was lower than his. If you teach me Berserk, I'll spare your life. Night Sorrow didn't attack immediately. The violent secret technique made him very envious. Impossible. The ancient books exchanged from the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda could not be passed on. Hurry up and do it. Yuan Hui closed his eyes and waited for death to come. Forget it. You can leave. To me, you're no match at all. You're no threat. Yuan Hui was also ordered by someone. There was no enmity between them, so Night Sorrow didn't kill him. The next time we meet, I'll defeat you. Yuan Hui turned and left. He returned to Stone Mountain and said, Boss, I lost. I'll need many years to recover. I can't help you in battle in the future. It's not your fault. He's too strong. Go find a place to recover your body. I'll take care of the rest. Stone Mountain's eyes weren't weak. He could see that Night Sorrow's attributes weren't simple. It couldn't be measured by body refinement realm alone. He looked at Night Sorrow and said coldly, Now, you're qualified for me to attack. But you just fought, so I'll give you time to recover. There's no need. I don't have much time to waste on the two of you. If you choose to fight, then let's fight now. His body didn't suffer any major injuries, and he didn't use his power of virtue. Night Sorrow felt that he still had the confidence to fight. There was only one thing that Night Sorrow felt strange. This Stone Mountain clearly looked like a middle-level feather god, but Lung Chinxiu said that he was an upper-level feather god. Okay, as you wish. Stone Mountain didn't hesitate at all. Like a fierce beast, he ran wildly towards Night Sorrow. It was reasonable to say that Stone Mountain was much stronger than Yuan Hui. His speed should be faster, but that wasn't the case. He used the most primitive physical attack and didn't deliberately accelerate. The two fought, and a more pure and primitive battle began. Facing Stone Mountain, Night Sorrow no longer held back and directly used his power of virtue. With the power of virtue, Night Sorrow's strength increased greatly. Even facing Stone Mountain, he wasn't at a disadvantage. Soon, the two fought for hundreds of rounds. The result was a tie. In the process of the battle, Stone Mountain held back at the beginning, but in the end, he used his full strength. However, he still couldn't take down Night Sorrow. How can he be so strong? He can use such a strange power in the Endless Bone Realm. What kind of power is this? During the battle, Stone Mountain became more and more alarmed, but he still didn't use any of his trump cards. In fact, it wasn't just Stone Mountain. Many cultivators didn't know what the power of virtue was. Moreover, they were very murderous. Even if they killed skeletons in the Endless Bone Realm, they wouldn't obtain any power of virtue. What kind of power are you using? Stone Mountain couldn't help but ask the moment the two separated. Power of virtue. I'm the feather god of virtue. Night Sorrow didn't hide and told the truth. He felt that the title of feather god of virtue was more appropriate than feather god of virtue. You're very strong, but you must die today. Today, we won't rest until one of us is dead. Stone Mountain admired Night Sorrow's methods, but Night Sorrow and Lung Chinchio were irreconcilable enemies. This was something he couldn't accept. Thus, he used the secret technique Berserk and instantly increased his strength by a lot. Stone Mountain was much stronger than Yuan Hui. The strength of his body were not something Yuan Hui could compare to. Facing the Berserk Stone Mountain, Night Sorrow didn't dare to be careless and used his speed to dodge. He had no problem fighting Yuan Hui head-on, but he would die miserably if he fought Stone Mountain like that. The original Night Sorrow had already used all his strength and was barely able to be on par with Stone Mountain. Bastard, aren't you very tough? Why don't you dare to take my attacks? Under Night Sorrow's deliberate dodging, Stone Mountain almost couldn't attack. His attacks missed, making him extremely depressed. This was because after the secret technique Berserk, he would suffer a huge backlash. If he couldn't kill Night Sorrow in a short time, he would be in danger. How can this be? Why is Night Sorrow's close combat ability so strong? How long has it been? And he can already fight against a veteran powerhouse. Chapter 2405. Stone Mountain was Lung Chinchio's greatest support. If he died at the hands of Night Sorrow, it would be difficult for him to survive in the Endless Bone Realm. As for his life, Lung Chinchio wasn't worried for the time being. He had already paid the protection fee for 10,000 years. He didn't believe that Night Sorrow had the courage to kill him. After all, the four powerhouses of the Endless Bone Realm were mythical existences. No one dared to break the rules they set. While Lung Chinchio was worried, the battle between Night Sorrow and Stone Mountain was still ongoing. Without the support of Divine Yuan Shi or a divine artifact, the battle between the two wasn't as dazzling as it was in the divine realm. However, the intensity wasn't low at all. There was some primitive wildness that made one's blood boil. This brat is so difficult to deal with. How can he be a lesser feather god? Stone Mountain, whose strength was about the same as Night Sorrow's, grew more and more alarmed. If he didn't use Berserk, he definitely wouldn't lose. But now, if he couldn't kill Yi Sorrow quickly, his life would be in danger once the Berserk ended and the backlash came. This was a very awkward situation. I can only use that secret manual. Seeing that Night Sorrow's speed hadn't decreased at all, Stone Mountain was starting to panic. He decided to use another secret manual he had exchanged from the Bone Pagoda. The secret manual's name was Tao Tai. It required one to pay the price of a lower rank in body refinement to temporarily gain great strength. Using this secret manual would temporarily raise Stone Mountain's strength to the level of a half-step high god. But after the secret manual ended, he would drop to the level of an intermediate feather god. It would take a long time to cultivate back. But compared to failure and death, Stone Mountain felt that the price was worth it. Secret Tao Tai. After thinking about it for a moment, Yin Shan roared out without hesitation. In an instant, his body, which was already full of explosive power, became even more powerful. There were even energy fluctuations on his body. His strength soared, and his body refinement reached the level of a half-step high god. I'm so much stronger all of a sudden. My speed has also increased by several times. What secret manual is this? It seems I'll have to accumulate more crystal cores in the future to exchange for a few manuals. These secret techniques are simply too heaven-defying. Night Sorrow couldn't help but feel envious of Stone Mountain, who was now a half-step high god. If he could increase his strength by several times, he might even be able to kill Stone Mountain in an instant. Just as Night Sorrow's thoughts were active, the Roaring Cliff Mountain had already attacked. With the increase in speed, It was no longer possible for Night Sorrow to dodge. He could only grit his teeth and fight back. Soon, visible cracks appeared on Night Sorrow's fists and fingers. They were in danger of shattering at any moment. Good. Kill him. Husband, kill him quickly. Don't give him any chance. Seeing that Night Sorrow had fallen into a passive state, Lung Chinchio immediately shouted with a smile. Moonf. Stone Mountain, who had paid a huge price to obtain great power, immediately frowned when he saw Lung Chinchio smiling. However, he continued to attack Night Sorrow, putting a lot of pressure on Night Sorrow. If you can pay the price, why can't I? The pressure was unbearable, so Yishan decided to be ruthless. He once again broke off his left arm and used the boundless body forging art to absorb the energy. Although his left arm was broken, his speed increased and his body became much lighter. Although he was still being suppressed, he was no longer in such a sorry state. There was no way he could beat Stone Mountain in a head-on clash. Night Sorrow could only rely on speed to delay. Thus, the situation once again fell into a deadlock. However, in reality, as long as Night Sorrow continued to persevere and wait for Stone Mountain's secret technique to end, he would win. Husband, why can't you even kill a lesser feather god? Lung Chinchio, who had thought that Night Sorrow would soon die, shouted with a gloomy expression. Stop. I'm not fighting anymore. I won't interfere in the matters between the two of you. At this moment, Stone Mountain unexpectedly stopped. It had been less than 5 breaths since he had used the secret technique. You fight when you want to and stop when you want to? How is that possible? You have to pay the price for attacking me. Do you really think I'm easy to bully? Hearing Stone Mountain's words, Night Sorrow revealed a trace of a cold smile. He thought to himself, this secret technique of yours is actually going to end so quickly. If he could not withstand the attack just now, he would definitely be killed by the other party. Now that Stone Mountain wanted to stop, how could he give him the chance? It's my turn now. Night Sorrow roared and fought with Stone Mountain again. As he expected, Stone Mountain's secret technique ended very quickly. After it ended, Stone Mountain even struggled to stand. How could he be Night Sorrow's match? He was directly blown apart by him. Seeing Stone Mountain die in battle, Lung Chinchio's expression immediately changed drastically. He prepared to escape, but he immediately thought of paying the protection fee. Seeing Night Sorrow chasing after him, Lung Chinchio threatened loudly. I've already paid 10,000 years of protection fee. Try touching me if you dare. Don't talk about 10,000 years of protection fee. Even if you paid 10,000 reincarnations, I'll still kill you. How could Night Sorrow let Lung Chinchio, who conspired to obtain the heavenly Samsara halberd and formed a grudge with him, off the hook? However, just as he was about to attack, a team led by an upper-level feather god and composed of lower-level feather gods blocked Lung Chinchio's path. You want to break the rules and kill someone? Are you provoking my lord? Do you believe that we won't kill you immediately? The upper-level feather god threatened. He had seen Night Sorrow's fierce performance in the battle just now. However, relying on the fact that he was Feng Ling's subordinate, he had a sense of superiority. Rules? Killing someone under your care is a violation of the rules. According to that, as long as my enemy pays you a fee, I can never touch them, and they can attack me at will? Night Sorrow asked with a sneer. The rules are like this. If you're not convinced, you can find our Lord Feng Ling to reason with him. The upper-level feather god, leading the team, Feng Jio, said disdainfully. Rules? That's your rules. I, Night Sorrow, have rules. Whoever provokes me must die. The rules of Seaside City were more or less reasonable and were basically fair. Night Sorrow abided by them. The rules of the sky-piercing bone pagoda were equivalent exchanges. Night Sorrow also abided by them. However, Night Sorrow did not want to give face to Feng Ling's rules. As he spoke, he directly attacked. He passed through the crowd, protecting Lung Chinchio, and blasted him apart. Lung Chinchio had the strength of a half-step-high deity outside, but in the Endless Bone realm, he had no ability to resist at all. And Night Sorrow had not only blasted Lung Chinchio apart, He had also blasted apart the rules set by Feng Ling with one punch. Audacious! You dare to break our Lord's rules? There will be no place for you in this endless bone realm. Kill him. Seeing Knight Sorrow kill someone in front of him, Feng Jiu immediately flew into a rage. It had been many years since anyone dared to make a move in Feng Ling's territory. You want to kill me with just the likes of you? Dream on. His physical condition was not very good. Moreover, this place was Feng Ling's territory. He absolutely could not continue fighting. Chapter 2406. The sky-reaching Bone Pagoda was some distance away from East Valley City. Knight Sorrow rushed all the way without any delay. But when he arrived at East Valley City, the Zyakotl King was still captured. Feng Ling's men had a way to transmit telepathy and had already put him on the wanted list. The Zyakotl King had been in contact with Knight Sorrow before, so it was easy to find out. Now, the Zyakotl King had been beaten half to death, hanging at the entrance of East Valley City, being ravaged by the soul-devouring evil wind. He had less than half of his life left, hanging outside the valley without anyone watching over him. Aren't you afraid that I'll save him? There must be a reason for this abnormality. Knight Sorrow stopped thousands of miles away from the periphery of the valley and observed. After waiting for half a month, there was still no sign of a guard. No matter what, I have to do it directly. If I delay any longer, the Zyakotl King will become jerky. Knight Sorrow, who knew that he could not wait any longer, exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and rushed to the place where the Zyakotl King was hanging. He was very fast, like a bolt of lightning. There are no formations. I can save him directly. After getting closer, Knight Sorrow confirmed that there were no formations nearby, and no one was lying in ambush. He rushed to the Zyakotl King, put him down, picked him up, and left. Sir. He did not expect Knight Sorrow to rush out to save his Zyakotl King. He was obviously surprised. He thought that he would die here. After all, most of the people in the Endless Bone region were of inferior character. You should recover well. Knight Sorrow actually had a selfish motive for saving the Zyakotl King. After all, he was very interested in the area where the formation was located. After finding a safe area for the Zyakotl King to rest, Knight Sorrow asked, "Why didn't they send someone to guard you when they hung you up there? Why did they let me save you so easily?" "Sigh, sir, that's because they found something more important to do." The Zyakotl King sighed and said, "Sir, I'm sorry. I revealed the formation where the body-tempering treasured book is. I was just protecting myself." "I see. It's not your fault. I implicated you. I won't mistreat you in the future. Looks like the powerhouses under Feng Ling should have all headed for that grand array. However, it is very strange that they did not kill you to silence you." After hearing the Zyakotl King's description, Knight Sorrow understood what was going on. Anyone who could cultivate a paramount god's body-refining tome would be interested in it. Most likely, even high feather gods would go to the array formation to try their luck. As for the weaker ones, they were of no threat to Knight Sorrow, so there was no point in staying. However, it did not make sense for them to not kill the Python King. "My lord, they actually wanted to kill me, but a senior who was drinking with me last time drove them away," the Zyakotl King hurriedly explained. "Then I really have to thank Brother Imo, the Python King. Once you've recovered, I'll send you to the area under the jurisdiction of other experts. During this process, tell me the location of the formation and all the things I need to pay attention to in the formation." After pondering for a moment, Knight Sorrow said, "My lord, this time, it was very likely that the other party would send over tens of thousands of cultivators who had reached the deity realm. Feng Ling might go too. If you go alone, it's tantamount to walking into a trap." The Zyakotl King hurriedly advised. He still had to rely on Knight Sorrow in the future, so he naturally did not want him to throw his life away. "You're right. I can't be a moth to a flame. However, it's impossible for me to give up on this opportunity." Knight Sorrow thought for a moment. "Since I'll be throwing my life away if I go alone, then let's muddy the waters. Instead of benefiting Feng Ling's people, It's better to make this matter known to the entire Endless Bone region. If this matter was made public, countless people would rush into the array formation. In the face of mutual hostility, Night Sorrow would not be so conspicuous. He might even be able to fish in troubled waters. Taking out the twin shells that the female cultivator, Jing Yun, had given him, Night Sorrow transmitted, "Jing Yun, can you hear me? Night Sorrow, I heard that you offended Feng Ling's people at the sky-piercing bone pagoda. Things are getting out of hand," Jing Yun quickly replied. Actually, she was cultivating at the moment, but she interrupted him immediately. "Yes, I killed an enemy in front of them." Night Sorrow could tell that Jing Yun was not one of Feng Ling's people. He asked, "Are you a loose cultivator, or are you following a few great experts?" "I'm Lord Jing Hong's subordinate." "Lord Jing Hong is one of the 4 great experts," Jing Yun replied. "Jing Hong, Jing Yun, don't tell me you have some kinship with Jing Hong?" Night Sorrow asked. However, he felt that it was unlikely because Jing Hong was so strong. If they were related, under his care, Jing Yun's body refinement level should not be a basic low-level feather god. "Hey, I want to get close to Lord Jing Hong, but he's elusive. It's impossible to meet him," Jing Yun explained and asked, "Yishang, are you looking for me because you've run into trouble? Are you surrounded by Feng Ling's people? Do you need me to rescue you? Although I'm not strong enough, I know a few high-level feather god experts." "Yes, I'm trapped in a valley by them. I need someone to rescue me. There are 3 high-level feather god experts under Feng Ling. I'm no match for them." 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. Yishan wanted to find a trustworthy partner for this trip. The first person he thought of was Imo Qianqian, but he couldn't contact that old man. He could only settle for the next best thing, which was to cooperate with Jing Yun. However, they were not familiar with each other, so he had to sound her out. 3 high-level feather gods? No problem. Hide well. I'll bring people over immediately, Jing Yun said without hesitation and walked out of the cultivation room. It didn't take long for 5 feather gods to gather together. "Young miss, is it worth it to offend Feng Ling in order to save a loose cultivator?" A white-faced male cultivator asked in confusion as they headed to Night Sorrow's location. His name was Ling Tian, and his body refinement level was at the high-level feather god level. He was not far from half-step high god and was the strongest in the group. "It's worth it, definitely worth it. Night Sorrow is a rare genius. I think his future won't be worse than my brother's," Jing Yun said with certainty. Her brother was one of the 4 great experts of the Endless Bone Realm, Jing Hong. "Isn't that a bit exaggerated?" Ling Tian said in disbelief. He didn't believe that someone could catch up to the ruler Jing Hong. "Exaggerated? It's not exaggerated at all. You've heard about Night Sorrow's battle with Stone Mountain, right? Then do you know that Night Sorrow's body refinement level is at the low-level feather god level? A low-level feather god against a high-level feather god, and with the other party using all their trump cards, it ended in a draw. Who could do such a thing?" Jing Yun asked with a serious expression. "What? That Night Sorrow who dared to kill people in Feng Ling's territory is at the low-level feather god level." Ling Tian was stunned. Even if the cultivators in the Endless Bone Realm had divine artifacts, they could not activate them and could only fight as ordinary weapons. Chapter 2407. Night Sorrow was a lower-level feather god. Fighting with Stone Mountain, who was an upper-level feather god, was not just an ordinary cross-level battle. If he could contend with an upper-level feather god at this level, wouldn't he be able to wrestle with a half-step high god when he advanced to an intermediate feather god? He was simply a monster. That's not all. I saw with my own eyes that he advanced from the basic feather god level to 20% of a lower-level feather god level in 10 years. This kind of cultivation speed can no longer be described as terrifying. It's simply abnormal. It's never appeared in the Endless Bone region. Jing Yun praised as she walked, and continued, "Even my brother relied on the accumulation of several reincarnations to advance to a half-step high feather god level. But in my opinion, with Night Sorrow's cultivation speed, It won't take long for him to advance to an upper-level feather god level. At that time, Jingyun didn't want to say anything else. In her opinion, Night Sorrow would definitely have a place in the Endless Bone region in the future. This is indeed somewhat. Ling Tian, who had wanted to say something, was speechless. After calming down, he said, "We must save such a person. If he doesn't die prematurely, he will definitely rise in the future. Perhaps he will really become one of the strongest. If he becomes one of the strongest and is still our friend, then the Endless Bone region may very well be our world in the future." Jingya nodded. Then she thought of something and added, "I know you are all geniuses and have unruly personalities. Apart from my brother, you won't submit to anyone. But when you come into contact with Night Sorrow, I hope you can be more polite." "Okay, I understand." Ling Tian nodded. The others also agreed. As for whether they took it to heart, no one knew. "We're here. Prepare for battle." As they approached the valley that Night Sorrow had mentioned, Jing Yun ordered the experts who had come with her to prepare. She really brought people here, and they really aren't here to help Feng Ling catch me. Night Sorrow, who was watching from afar, saw the other party's performance and immediately had a good impression. However, he did not move. When Jing Yun took out the twin shell, Night Sorrow slowly walked out of the valley. Why do I feel like no one from Feng Ling has been here before? Seeing Night Sorrow calmly walk out of the valley, Ling Tian couldn't help but mutter, "Don't talk nonsense. You have to believe in Night Sorrow," Jing Yun said immediately. Thinking about what he had said previously, Ling Tian did not say much. At this moment, Night Sorrow, who heard their discussion, smiled and said, "Indeed, I wasn't surrounded by Feng Ling's men." At this point, Yishang had originally wanted to continue explaining about the great array and the body tempering cultivation technique. Beside Jing Yun, a burly man suddenly said angrily, "Then are you playing with us for no reason? Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have some talent." His name was Ho Lai, and his original form was that of a Ho. A Ho was the bane of dragons, and he liked to eat their brains. There were rumors that a Ho could fight against 3 dragons and 2 flood dragons. "I'm not deliberately playing with you. I have something important to say," Night Sorrow explained. Since Jing Yun treated him as a friend, he was naturally very polite and spoke in a calm tone. However, Holai did not listen to his explanation and said, "I don't care what excuses you have. Since you played with me, you have to fight." "Holai, don't be rude. We are friends, not enemies." On the way, she was still talking about not provoking Night Sorrow. Now that Holai wanted to fight, Jing Yun's expression changed. "It's fine." Seeing Jing Yun's embarrassment, Night Sorrow smiled and continued, "Holai, right? Do you want to spar, or do you want to fight to the death?" He cultivated the power of merit and could sense that Holai did not want to kill him. Instead, he was naturally warlike and wanted to spar. "You are Jing Yun's friend, so I naturally won't kill you. I heard that you are quite strong, so I want to give it a try." Holai had doubts about Night Sorrow's strength. Moreover, he was naturally warlike and wanted to fight anyone he met. However, when he spoke, he was very blunt. "All right, then let's fight." In the past few days, Night Sorrow had already recovered from his injuries. With the experience of fighting against an upper-level feather god, he naturally would not be afraid to fight. Following that, under the watchful eyes of everyone, the battle between Night Sorrow and Holai ended in a draw. During the battle, Night Sorrow did not use his full strength. Holai also did not transform into his true form. His true form was much stronger than a human's combat strength. "Good. You can indeed fight an upper-level feather god with a lower-level feather god's body, refinement level. You are a genius. I, Holai, admire you." Although he had held back during the battle, Holai was very satisfied with Night Sorrow's performance and gave him respect. After all, even he could not fight someone 2 levels above him. "Brother Holai, you flatter me." Night Sorrow cupped his fists and said politely. After Holai's probing, everyone present confirmed Night Sorrow's ability and potential. Their originally tense attitudes became better, and they greeted him one after another. At this moment, Night Sorrow opened his mouth and said, "I won't hide it from everyone. It's like this. Then he told them about the Great Formation and said, "You are all Lord Jing Hong's subordinates. I feel that we should tell Lord Jing Hong about this matter and then decide on the two sides. It's better to publicize this matter and let everyone in the Endless Bone region know. Let's start a big chaotic battle, okay? About this matter, if we don't publicize it, the probability of obtaining the body refinement treasure book will be higher. However, the casualties may be disastrous." Ling Tian analyzed. Jingyan said, "This matter must be publicized, because only then will the situation in the Endless Bone region not change. Think about it. If Lord Jinghong and Fengling fight, won't both sides be injured? If both of them are injured, it is very likely that they will be targeted by the other two experts." "What you said makes sense." Ling Tian nodded. This was also what he was thinking. Holai also echoed. "That's the reason. A body refinement treasure book that could be cultivated to high deity was absolutely something that could make anyone covet in the Endless Bone region. As long as it was publicized, a big chaotic battle would be unavoidable. However, if the four great forces all participated, the situation in the Endless Bone region would still be balanced." What you all said makes sense." Knight Sorrow nodded and asked, "Then it's decided. Also, I want to form a team with everyone. What do you all think?" After this matter was publicized, the Great Formation would be very chaotic. It would be very difficult for one person to stand. Since I treat you as a friend, I'm naturally willing to form a team with you. Moreover, compared to the others, you should have a better understanding of the Great Formation. Forming a team with you won't be at a disadvantage. Therefore, I'm willing to form a team with you and search for opportunities." Without any hesitation, Jing Yun directly nodded and agreed. Since she agreed, the others also did not object. The matter was decided just like that. Chapter 2408. What? There's a body refinement manual in the bone region that can be cultivated to the high god level? Are you sure? Hearing his sister's voice transmission, Jing Hong, who was originally cultivating in the heaven-reaching bone pagoda, immediately stood up. Jing Hong's body refinement level was already infinitely close to the high god level, but there was only a thin layer of window paper that could not be pierced through. The main problem was that there was no suitable body refinement manual. Hearing Jing Yun's words, how could he still be calm? "I'm not 100% sure, but there's a lot of hope. Fengling's people are already rushing over," Jing Yun said truthfully. Even the Python King was not completely sure what grade the body refinement manual on the altar was. "There's a lot of hope. That's enough. You guys go check it out first. I'll gather people immediately." Jing Hong did not delay and directly left the heaven-reaching bone pagoda. He returned to the area under his command and gathered the strongest subordinates. Everyone, Lord Jing Hong has already gone to gather people and sent people to spread the news. He'll be here soon. Let's go check it out first. Jing Yun stopped communicating with Jing Hong and immediately explained the situation to Night Sorrow and the others. "Good. We know the route and can go at any time." Night Sorrow responded and continued. "But before that, I want to ask you guys to do something." "What is it?" "There's no harm in saying it directly," Holai said straightforwardly. "I heard that there are divine artifacts in the Endless Bone region. I need a higher grade spear. That will increase my battle strength by a lot." Entering the array, who knew what kind of killing scene they would encounter? Night Sorrow wanted to further equip himself. In High Bay City, he had comprehended the simple 10-spear moves. It was best to use them in the Endless Bone region. You can't use your divine Yuan Qi. Even if you have a divine artifact, it won't increase your battle strength by much, right? Ling Tian frowned. In the Endless Bone region, divine artifacts were extremely rare and not easy to obtain. If he delayed important matters for a spear, the gains would not make up for the losses. My Tao of the Spear is different from ordinary people. I've comprehended a trace of the essence of the Tao of the Spear. Even if I don't use my divine Yuan Qi, the might of my attacks wouldn't be low. Night Sorrow explained. He had absolute confidence in his Tao of the Spear. Upon hearing this, Zhu Yunxia, the only female cultivator in the group other than Jing Yun, said, I happen to have a 7 Tribulation Thunder Divine Spear in my residence in West Abyss City. It's just that I don't know if Brother Night Sorrow can control it without using Divine Yuan Qi. 7 Lightning Tribulation Feather Divine Spears. Even if she used her Divine Yuan Qi, it was not easy to control them. Her worries were reasonable. It should be fine. If you can't control it, I won't mention the divine artifact again. Night Sorrow cupped his fists together. I hope that everyone will forgive me for the delay. I'm fine. With one more trick up our sleeve, we'll have one more way to protect ourselves. Jingyan nodded and gave the order. There's no time to lose. Let's go. Under Jianxia's lead, Night Sorrow's group arrived at the West Abyss City under Jing Hong's jurisdiction and retrieved the 7-streak Lightning Tribulation Feather Divine Spear. The 1,000 Catty Demon Subduing Spear. Good spear. The 1,000 Catty Demon Subduing Spear's body seemed as if it had been poured out of ink. It felt twice as heavy as the Blood Kirin Evil Vanquishing Spear. Although it wasn't a divine artifact that he had personally refined, it was still very convenient to use as an external weapon. Night Sorrow estimated that with this 1,000 Catty Demon Subduing Spear, he wouldn't be able to fight Stone Mountain or Ho Lai to a draw again. Jing Yun and the others all praised Night Sorrow's divine strength. But time was of the essence, and no one spoke any nonsense. They rushed straight to the mountain valley where the Great Array was. After all, the slower they were, the higher the chance that the body refinement manual would be taken away. Fengling's people must have set up many sentries along the way. We must be careful. If we are discovered, try not to fight. If we encounter anyone who is alone, capture them alive and ask them about their arrangements. Ling Tian was the highest level body refiner present, so he naturally arranged all sorts of matters. All right, everyone cooperated with him. As they got closer and closer to the mountain valley where the Great Array was, their words became more and more refined. The soul-devouring evil wind that blew around them was quite fierce. Jing Yun, who was the weakest, couldn't even bear it. I'm too weak. I'm afraid I can't go. Jing Yun was originally the most eager to try, but the others were all upper-level feather gods while she was only a lower-level feather god. She couldn't keep up. That's a problem. Ling Tian and Ho Lai both frowned. It's fine. Follow me. We'll be careful. There shouldn't be a problem. Seeing Jing Yun's unwilling expression, Night Sorrow walked to her side and used his power of virtue to form some protection for her. Immediately, the soul-devouring evil wind's influence lessened. Thank you. Feeling the resistance lessen, Jing Yun was delighted. After all, fortuitous opportunities weren't determined by strength. As long as they entered, there would be a chance. Seeing that Night Sorrow and Jing Yun were very close to each other, Ling Tian's expression was a little unnatural, but he quickly adjusted. It's fine. We're a team. We should fight side by side and not give up on anyone. Night Sorrow said politely and continued, The Python King told me that there are 2 entrances to this formation. He only said one. We'll go around and enter from the other one. It'll be safer this way. Okay, that's the best. Jingyan nodded in agreement. Hearing this news, the others were also quite happy. The group carefully began to make a detour toward the valley. Not good. There's someone. However, when they were still hundreds of thousands of miles away from the valley, Night Sorrow saw 6 or 7 cultivators on the highest mountain in the valley looking around. Along the way, there were also Fengling's people. There was almost 1 sentry in 1,000 miles, and they were quite densely distributed. If they weren't careful, they would be discovered. What should we do? Fengling's people are so densely distributed. Are we going to force our way in? Ling Tian frowned. Without a doubt, Jing Hong's main force hadn't arrived yet. It would be very dangerous for them to force their way in. After all, no one knew what was going on inside the formation. Wait a moment. I'll contact Lord Jing Hong again. At this moment, Jing Yin asked everyone to hold back and then communicated with Jing Hong. After the communication, Jing Yun's face revealed a trace of joy. She said, This time, the 4 powerhouses have discussed. They won't make a move and only let their subordinates participate in the fight. As long as Feng Ling doesn't come, we should have a chance. This will indeed increase our chances of success. We can't break through the defense of the four powerhouses at all. Any one of them can crush countless people. Without them, although the competition is still very big, there's still a trace of chance. Ling Tian's face was also filled with joy. Don't be careless. I don't think things are that simple. Chapter 2409. You're worrying too much. No one, including the four of them, has ever gone against the decision of the four powerhouses after their discussion. Otherwise, if they get angry, the Endless Bone Region's factions will definitely be reshuffled. Ling Tian shook his head, thinking that Night Sorrow was overthinking things. All right, Night Sorrow nodded and didn't continue speaking. However, he thought to himself, they might not make a move now, but if they really do have a body-tempering scripture that can allow one to cultivate to the high god level, they might be able to. That's hard to say. After all, the four powerhouses in the Endless Bone region said that some of them had broken through to the high god level, but there was no confirmation. The most likely scenario was that they were all close to breaking through to the high god level. Whoever broke through first would be invincible in the Endless Bone region. Under such circumstances, wouldn't they come out to snatch the scripture? Impossible. No matter what, this is a rare opportunity. Let's go in first. Zhu Yunxia said. The earlier they went in, the higher their chances of obtaining a fortuitous opportunity. Everyone understood this logic. All right, then let's take a risk. Ling Tian replied. Night Sorrow and Jing Yun follow behind. Yunxia, you protect them. Holai, Zhang Pingyang, Geng Chun follow me. We'll clear out the sentries. The strongest among them is only a low-level feather god. There's nothing to be afraid of. However, we mustn't alert them. Zhang Pingyang was a pale-faced, scholarly cultivator. However, he was already a high-level feather god. His strength couldn't be underestimated. The other person in the group was a burly, dark-faced man named Geng Chun. He was originally a water gloom. However, a water gloom turned into a flood dragon after 5 million years, a flood dragon after 10 million years, a horn dragon after another 5 million years, and a winged dragon after 10 million years. After cultivating for so many years, he had already become a winged dragon. After that, he cultivated into a human. Although he kept a low profile and didn't speak, his strength shouldn't be much weaker than Ling Tian's. If we're discovered, we'll stake it all and charge in. The people outside won't be able to stop us. The closer they got, the more tense the atmosphere became. Ling Tian's voice also became lower. All right, Jing Yun and the others became alert. When they encountered the first patrol squad, they didn't give them a chance at all because they were all high-tier divine feathers. Just like that, the 6 members of the patrol team were all killed silently. There doesn't seem to be any difficulty. Ling Tian, who had killed 2 low-level feather gods in an instant, said softly. He felt that everyone was being too cautious. That's right. Look at the other patrol teams. They didn't even notice what happened here. Holai nodded. No, we have to speed up. If I'm not wrong, we'll be discovered in 10 breaths of time. Night Sorrow, who suddenly felt that something was wrong, quickly explained, observe carefully. These teams are actually very well coordinated. They will change positions every 10 breaths. Any problem with any squad would be discovered within 10 breaths of time. We have to rush over quickly. How is that possible? I'm afraid you're worrying for nothing. If you can see anything, why didn't you say so before you charged over? Ling Tian immediately questioned. There's no time to explain. We must rush to the entrance immediately. A few breaths of time was not long, but for cultivators of their level, it was enough for them to travel a great distance. No, we have to bide our time and wait for the next opportunity. Let's wait for the next opportunity. Ling Yun shook his head and told everyone to go into hiding. He felt that Night Sorrow was purposely making his presence known and not giving him face. He was a little angry. Sigh, we missed the opportunity. If not for the need to protect Jing Yun, Night Sorrow would have rushed to the entrance just now. A few breaths of time passed quickly. Just as everyone was in hiding, an ear-piercing horn sounded. Although Fengling's subordinates didn't discover their location, they discovered that a small team had been destroyed. Hundreds of cultivators were rushing in this direction. What do we do? Ling Tian. We were discovered. Jingyan said worriedly. It's fine. It's fine, even if we were discovered. The other party is a low-level feather god. There's nothing to worry about. Ling Tian said nonchalantly. He didn't care about the patrol team in front of him at all. At this time, Geng Chun, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, Not good. The other party has more than one high-level feather god. His Eye of the Winged Dragon was very special. He could see the strength of a cultivator from very far away. The high-level feather god he was talking about naturally referred to the level of his body tempering. How many are there? Ling Tian asked hurriedly. We've discovered 10 so far. Twice as many as we have. They're prepared. We've probably fallen into an ambush. Geng Chun sighed. 10? So many. Hearing this, not only was Ling Tian slightly astonished, even Yishang's expression changed slightly. The difference in strength between the two sides seemed a little too big. If they were really surrounded, it would be very difficult to break out. What should we do? Charge in or retreat? Jingyan looked at Ling Tian. If we retreat before going in, wouldn't we have come for nothing? Let's charge. How could Ling Tian, who was obviously interested in Jing Yun, say anything about retreating? He gave the order and rushed out. How brainless! Seeing Ling Tian rush out, Night Sorrow was speechless. He thought to himself, if we ambush them and wait for them to get close, we might be able to kill 2 or 3 high-level feather gods in an instant. Now that he was exposed, Fengling's people had the advantage. However, since someone rushed out, Night Sorrow and the others couldn't just watch and quickly followed. Because they had to protect Jing Yun, Night Sorrow was at the back. Enemy attack. Everyone, be careful. 6 or 7 people boldly rushed out. Naturally, they were immediately discovered by Fengling's men. The 10 high-level feather gods immediately chased after them. Seeing that there were only 5 high-level feather gods and 2 low-level feather gods, the leading cultivator, Chong Hao-yin, laughed sinisterly. Sure enough, a fish has taken a bait. Let's kill to our heart's content today. Those 2 female cultivators are good-looking. Leave them to me. A pale-faced male cultivator licked his lips. Female cultivators were originally rare goods in the Endless Bone Realm, and Ruthless Scorpion was a lecher. Scram! Since there are beautiful ladies, of course we should all have fun together. We can't let you enjoy them alone. A male cultivator, whose height wasn't shorter than a low-level feather god skeleton, chopped down a skeleton that had just drilled out of the ground and cursed. When they got closer, Mi Hao-Yan's eyes lit up. That low-level feather god female cultivator is Jing Hong's younger sister, Jingyan. If we capture her alive and hand her over to the leader, we'll definitely be rewarded handsomely. It really is her. Ruthless Scorpion's eyes also lit up. If they captured Jing Hong's younger sister, they would indeed have made a great contribution. He smiled. You guys hold back the others. I'll capture her first. Chapter 24:10. Don't worry, I'm not stupid. However, I can't avoid taking advantage of her. Tyrannical Scorpion said with an evil expression. That's fine. Do as you wish. Mi Hao-Yin replied and ordered, Let's go. At his command, the 10 high-rank feather gods all took to the air and madly charged at Night Sorrow's group. The distance between them wasn't too far, and Jingyun's speed was indeed slow. Soon the two sides met. Let's fight and retreat. At this moment, Ling Tian was a little afraid. The other side's lineup was obviously more powerful than his. Moreover, with Jingyun dragging them down, it wouldn't be easy for them to escape. Fight and retreat? Ling Tian, you wish. Hearing Ling Tian's words, Mi Hao-Yin sneered and said, Tyrannical Scorpion, Go deal with those two low-level feather gods. Leave the rest to us. They had been in the Endless Bone realm for countless years and were old acquaintances. Okay. Hearing this, Tyrannical Scorpion immediately accepted the order and rushed towards Night Sorrow and Jingyun. Ling Tian and the others wanted to say something, but there was no time for nonsense. They had 5 high-level feather gods to deal with 9 high-level feather gods. Although Jing Hong had selected experts to protect his sister, it wasn't easy for 5 to fight 9. After the chaotic battle began, they quickly fell into a disadvantage. Ling Tian was very strong, but he was evenly matched with Mi Haoyan and couldn't help the others. Ho Lai, Jiang Pingyang, Geng Chun, and Zhu Yunxiao were surrounded by 2 cultivators of the same cultivation level, and their situation was even worse. Although they knew how important Jingyun was, they couldn't free themselves. Especially Zhu Yunxia. Under the pincer attack of 2 male cultivators, she quickly showed signs of defeat. Even half of her white robe was torn apart. If not for the 2 male cultivators deliberately trying to take advantage of her, she might have been killed in a few rounds. Jiang Pingyang was also in a difficult situation. Soon, half of his arm was chopped off by a male cultivator with a giant axe. Ho Lai and Geng Chun were quite strong. They didn't fall into a disadvantage, but they didn't have the energy to take care of the others. Looks like I'm going to die here today. Zhu Yunxia, whose clothes were being torn apart, felt sorrow in her heart when she saw the situation. She thought to herself that if she couldn't do it, she would have to kill herself. Otherwise, her innocence would be in danger. The world of cultivators was just this cruel. Defeat would be very miserable. Ho Lai and Geng Chun looked at each other and used their gazes to discuss if they should escape together. The 2 of them had a good relationship. As for Ling Tian, the distance between him and Mi Haoyan grew larger and larger. It was obvious that Ling Tian was retreating as he fought. However, while Ling Tian had retreated to a certain distance, the others had no chance to retreat at all. Seeing Ling Tian's performance, Ho Lai, Jiang Pingyang, Geng Chun, and Zhu Yunxia couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. As for Night Sorrow and Jingyun, they were both lesser feather gods. Although Night Sorrow and Ho Lai's fight had ended in a draw, no one thought that he could defeat Ruthless Scorpion. They were all familiar with Tyrannical Scorpion, and they knew that Tyrannical Scorpion's strength was only second to Mi Haoyan. Jingyun, you are Jing Hong's sister. You are usually high and mighty. Who would have thought that you would fall in my hands today? The battle between the others soon reached its climax. However, Ruthless Scorpion didn't immediately make a move. She stared at Jingyun for a while and threatened, I won't kill you because of your brother. However, you must serve me obediently. Otherwise, I'll make you beg for death. Dream on, Jingyun said angrily. Disobedient? Seeing Jingyun's reaction, Ruthless Scorpion sneered. If you don't cooperate, I will kill your annoying lover first. Night Sorrow and Jingyun had been together all this time. Ruthless Scorpion thought that they were in that kind of relationship. After berating them, he directly attacked Night Sorrow. You finally made a move. Night Sorrow, who hadn't made a move all this time, had to protect Jingyun and couldn't be too far away from her. Thus, he didn't make the first move. Facing a greater feather god, he wasn't afraid. In fact, he was somewhat looking forward to it. He directly used a 1,000-ton demon subduing spear and stabbed out 10 times. The spear is not bad, but in the hands of trash like you, it can't unleash its power at all. In the face of Night Sorrow's 10 spear strikes, Ruthless Scorpion didn't care at all. He turned his palm into a claw and directly grabbed over. With a bang, Ruthless Scorpion's huge right palm was directly pierced. What? Not expecting a lesser feather god's attack to be so powerful, Ruthless Scorpion immediately let out a cry of surprise. It's you. You're the lesser feather god who killed people in Master's territory. After thinking for a moment, Ruthless Scorpion remembered Night Sorrow. Wasn't this the cultivator they wanted? You know it's me, but it's too late. Jingyun, take care of yourself. I will finish him soon. To quickly kill a veteran greater feather god, Night Sorrow had to do his best. Now that the others were in a bad situation, he couldn't delay. He had to finish off Ruthless Scorpion as soon as possible and then help the others break out of the situation. Otherwise, the situation could easily develop in the direction of collapse. After a while, Ling Tian had already retreated. Be careful, I can hold on for a while. The patrol team of lesser feather gods was still a certain distance away, and there were no skeletons nearby. Jingyan could still hold on for a while. Don't worry, I can kill him in a few breaths of time. While speaking, Night Sorrow stabbed several times in succession. The spear skills he knew were not just the few spears just now. Under the condition of activating the power of virtue, Night Sorrow's fighting strength was several times stronger than when he fought with Rocky Mountain. And Ruthless Scorpion, who was about the same strength as Rocky Mountain, was suppressed very miserably. So strong, it seems that I have to use my full strength. Ruthless Scorpion, who was suppressed, was also a decisive person. He immediately transformed into his original form to fight. He was a black scorpion that had turned into a demon and was about the height of a small mountain. In contrast, Night Sorrow, who didn't deliberately enlarge his figure, looked like a mantis blocking a carriage. However, the situation was clearly not like a mantis trying to stop a carriage. Night Sorrow originally had the advantage in speed, and after Ruthless Scorpion transformed into his original form, he shuttled back and forth like a stream of light, which lessened the pressure on him. In less than 20 breaths of time, Ruthless Scorpion was covered in wounds. Is this how you use your full strength? Night Sorrow retorted ruthlessly. After entering the divine realm, he had grown stronger through battle. You're forcing my hand. Ruthless Scorpion knew that if this continued, he would very likely be killed, but he was too embarrassed to ask for help. After all, he was facing a lesser feather god. With a roar, Ruthless Scorpion activated a secret art, turning his entire body into a poisonous mist that attacked Night Sorrow. There's such a secret art in the Endless Bone realm. One couldn't use divine origin chi or soul power. Chapter 2411. Everyone else's battle had reached its climax, and no one had the time to pay attention to Night Sorrow's situation. At the same time, Fongling's patrol team had arrived, and the situation was very unfavorable for Night Sorrow's side. Retreat. Everyone attack. On the other side, Ling Tian had retreated to a safe distance and shouted, "Retreat!" He ran first. Bastard, is this how you lead your team? Seeing Ling Tian run away, everyone's morale suffered a great blow. Night Sorrow, this is Tyrannical Scorpion's unique talent. You need to find his weakness and kill him in one strike. Otherwise, you will never be able to walk out of the poisonous fog and will be poisoned to death. The only one who had some free time, Jing Yun, reminded him loudly. She had heard a Tyrannical Scorpion's life-saving trump card. So that's how it is. Hearing Jing Yun's reminder, Night Sorrow calmed down and began to search in the fog. At the same time, Jiang Pingyang, who was bitterly holding on, was cut in half by the axe and completely killed. And Zhu Yunxia, who was deliberately tortured by the other party, was left with only a doo-doo. This was a great humiliation for a God Realm cultivator. Let's run. There's no other way. Gung Chun shouted to Holai. Hold on for another 10 breaths. If no one comes to rescue us, we will retreat. As for Miss Jingyan, we can't take care of her. Holai, who had already transformed into his true form, was very brave, but he was also somewhat unable to hold on. Die! Just as everyone was about to collapse, Yishan suddenly let out a roar. It turned out that he had found Tyrannical Scorpion's life core in the poisonous fog and pierced it with his spear. Tyrannical Scorpion's poisonous fog was originally a desperate trump card. If he didn't succeed, he would die. Once his life core was found, he would be killed instantly. Everyone who hadn't been paying attention to the battle was momentarily stunned. Originally, everyone thought that this battle was the least suspenseful. No one had expected that Tyrannical Scorpion would be killed by Night Sorrow, a low-level feather god. Good job. Ho-Lai and Gung Chun shouted at the same time as if they had been injected with cardiac stimulants. Night Sorrow, on the other hand, killed more than 10 lesser feather gods who surrounded him and Jingyun. Then he fought against the 2 cultivators who killed Jiang Pingyang. With his imposing aura, he used his spear Dao to kill the cultivator with the giant axe in an instant, avenging Jiang Pingyang. There's still hope. Night Sorrow's marksmanship is truly amazing. Zhu Yunxia, who was originally prepared to self-destruct, had tears in her eyes. She never thought that Night Sorrow would be the one to step forward when Ling Tian had escaped. At this moment, she was very glad that everyone had sacrificed some time to find the 1,000-ton demon subduing spear for Night Sorrow. With the 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear in hand, Night Sorrow looked like an invincible god of death. In the blink of an eye, another upper-level feather god had been killed. There's hope. Let's fight. Ho-Lai and Gung Chun, who had been holding back their ultimate moves, felt hope rise in their hearts. They both used their ultimate moves. Ho-Lai, who had transformed into a giant golden dragon, directly tore an opponent to shreds. Gung Chun, who had transformed into a dragon, also heavily injured an opponent, making him lose the ability to fight. Now, the situation had become 3 against 5. Although Zhu Yunxia was injured and temporarily lost the ability to fight, she stood together with Jingyun. However, Night Sorrow, Ho-Lai, and Gung Chun were not seriously injured. It would not be difficult for them to defeat the 5 of them. You have no hope. However, at this moment, Mi Hao Yin, who had chased Ling Tian away, returned and joined the battle once more. The situation had become 3 against 6 again. Moreover, a peak-level upper-level feather god had joined the battle. Ling Tian, you deserve to die. If it wasn't for Ling Tian's escape, their side would have won this battle because of Night Sorrow's explosive power. Now, even if they could win, it would be very tragic. Night Sorrow, protect Jingyun and Yunxia and break out of the encirclement. The 2 of us will block them. Ho-Lai shouted, his face full of hatred. He and Gung Chun had already used their secret techniques and would not be able to hold on for long. They would suffer a backlash and their strength would drop greatly. They were already prepared to sacrifice themselves. No need to run. The ones who should run are them. Night Sorrow, who was standing in front of the 2 women, did indeed have a chance to escape. However, he was not the kind of person who would abandon his teammates. As he roared, he unleashed his virtue energy to the maximum and charged towards the upper-level feather god in front of him, killing him in a single exchange. You deserve to die. Mi Hao Yin, who had just arrived, charged straight at Yi Chong with a furious look on his face. In a situation where they had a clear advantage in numbers, only one of their opponents had died and 1 had escaped. On his side, 5 were dead and 1 was heavily injured. How could he accept this? Don't fight. Night Sorrow, hurry up and leave. Hurry up and leave. Don't worry about us. The 2 of us are about to die. Gung Chun, who had been silent all this time, shouted. He knew that his secret technique was about to expire. As long as he and Ho-Lai were weakened, the situation would turn into one where Night Sorrow would fight against 4 upper-level feather gods by himself. How could a lesser feather god possibly contend against such a situation? Ho-Lai also roared, Brother Night Sorrow, I, Ho-Lai, have not lived in vain to have met a genius like you. Don't fight for us. Hurry up and run. Don't worry. I haven't reached my limit yet. Although he had used up a lot of his virtue energy, Night Sorrow felt that his combat strength had not decreased. In the battle just now, his spear Dao had improved, just like when he had comprehended the life and death spear. I have the primordial Dao body, the virtue Dao body, and the reincarnation energy. With such a deep understanding of taboos, why can't I comprehend taboo grade spear techniques? In an instant, Ho-Lai and Gung Chun lost their combat strength and suffered heavy injuries. Afterwards, Night Sorrow was surrounded by Mi Hao Yin and the other 3 upper-level feather gods. The situation was like a battle between trapped beasts. Even so, Mi Hao Yin and the others did not dare to be careless. They did not even have the time to kill Ho Lai, Geng Chun, or Zhu Yunxia. You're not Jing Hong's subordinate. There's no need for you to risk your life like this. How about this? I'll let you go, but you leave the 4 of them behind. The matter of you offending Lord Fengling will also be written off. At this moment, Knight Sorrow's aura was at its peak. Mi Hao Yin deliberately did not attack immediately. Instead, he persuaded him to leave. No need to say anything more. I don't have the habit of abandoning my companions. Come, let's have a showdown. The virtue energy around Knight Sorrow's body dissipated, but his blood energy surged and flowed on the surface of his body, forming a smoke signal that soared into the sky. It's actually a deity's essence smoke. Quickly, attack. We can't let his aura continue to rise. Seeing that something was wrong, Mi Hao Yin was in no mood to persuade him. He ordered the other 3 upper-level feather gods to attack. Come, let's fight. Chapter 24:12. Even at this moment, Brother Knight Sorrow still has such an aura. He's like a god descending to the mortal world. Ho Lai am convinced. Ho Lai, who had already accepted his fate, had tears in his eyes. This was caused by his excitement, and not because he was being unreasonable. Yi Shan's performance with his black spear was simply too ferocious. He was definitely able to turn the tide and support the collapse of a great building. Not only was Ho Lai excited, Geng Chun, Jing Yun, and Zhu Yunxia were also deeply affected. Especially Zhu Yunxia. She felt that she had the strength to fight again. Just at this moment, another group of low-level feather gods attacked and were killed by her. While Zhu Yunxia was fighting with the low-level feather gods, Knight Sorrow, who had already entered a berserk state, used the forbidden spear technique he had comprehended to kill another person. Furthermore, he seemed to be getting fiercer as he fought. Is this a forbidden spear technique? Mi Hao Yin, who had never seen such a spear technique in the Endless Bone Realm before, suddenly felt the urge to retreat. He and the other 2 high-level feather gods hadn't used their secret techniques yet, but he felt that it wasn't worth it to fight to the death in such a situation. After all, he only wanted to capture Jing Yun and gain some merits. There was no need to fight to the death. Retreat. After Knight Sorrow killed another high-level feather god, Mi Hao Yin quickly fled like a frightened horse. The last remaining high-level feather god also wanted to flee, but Knight Sorrow's 1,000-kilogram devil-subduing spear pierced through his body. At the end of the battle, Knight Sorrow had actually killed several people, and the strongest on both sides had fled. It was quite a dramatic scene. Brother Knight Sorrow, I won't say anything. Ho Lai, owe you my life. From now on, regardless of wind or rain, I will follow you. After killing the heavily injured high-level feather god, Ho Lai immediately stood up and bowed towards Knight Sorrow. The others were also extremely grateful towards Knight Sorrow, saying many words of thanks. If it wasn't for him today, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Geng Chun, who didn't like to talk much, started cursing Ling Tian, who had fled midway. Everyone, there's no need to be so courteous. We must leave this place immediately. To tell you the truth, I'm already at my limit. I'm like an arrow at the end of its flight. If that person hadn't fled, I definitely wouldn't have been his match. After saying Knight Sorrow, he fell to the ground. Knight Sorrow, are you exhausted from fighting? Should we enter the Great Array or go back the way we came? Jing Yin asked as she helped Knight Sorrow up. At this point, the 4 of them had already treated Knight Sorrow as their backbone. In my opinion, we might still have a chance if we enter the formation. However, just as Jing Yin took out the twin shell and was about to contact Jing Hong, a cold and slightly smug voice suddenly sounded. Ling Tian walked out from behind a pile of rocks and rushed onto the stone platform. He snatched the twin shell from Jing Yun's hands and threw it to the ground. Ling Tian, you deserter! What are you doing? Jing Yun immediately shouted angrily. Ling Tian, Holai, and Gung Chun glared at each other. Hearing this, Ling Tian smiled. Jingyun, to tell you the truth, I've been interested in you for a long time. Now is the best time to get you. Ha ha ha. Despicable and shameless. Aren't you afraid that Big Brother will hunt you down? Seeing Ling Tian walk towards her step by step, Jingyun's expression changed greatly. She had basically lost the ability to fight. With just her and Zhu Yunxia, they definitely weren't a match for Ling Tian. Ha ha ha. After playing with you and Zhu Yunxia, I'll kill you all. No one will know that I did it. Ling Tian's face was filled with madness. However, before I play with you and Zhu Yunxia, I have to deal with these three first. I don't want others to see my women's bodies. Bastard, who's your woman? Seeing that Ling Tian was about to make a move on Night Sorrow and the others, Zhu Yunxia's expression became serious, and she rushed up. You overestimate yourself. Zhu Yunxia, even if you were at your peak, you wouldn't be a match for me. Let alone now. Ling Tian, who was laughing towards the sky, sent Zhu Yunxia flying with a slap. Ling Tian, you treacherous bastard, you'll die a horrible death. Jingyun, who was helping Zhu Yunxia up, angrily cursed. In her heart, she was already prepared to die. Even if she died, she wouldn't let a despicable person like Ling Tian off so easily. Chapter 24:13. Even if I die, I won't let you have your way. Red Cloud will protect our innocence with our lives. Jingyun, who couldn't see any hope, glared at Ling Tian. It's not hard to die, but even if you die, I'll have a good time with you to get rid of the demons in my heart. Ling Tian laughed wantonly as he stared at Jingyun. If you weren't Jing Hong's sister, I wouldn't feel so excited. Ling Tian, you bitch. If you have the guts, wait for me to recover and fight. What's the point of bullying a woman? The irascible Ho Lai was so angry that his teeth itched, but there was nothing he could do. After suffering the backlash, he couldn't even move. You want a big fight? Sure, I'll satisfy you. With the joy of being in control, Ling Tian sneered. Which one of you three is prepared to fight first? Or all of you can fight together? He was naturally referring to Night Sorrow, Ho Lai, and Gung Chun. You're dead. Night Sorrow, who hadn't spoken until now, slowly stood up. In his eyes, a shameless person like Ling Tian didn't need to live. Haha, with just you? A piece of trash that needed a woman to carry you here. Ling Tian felt that Night Sorrow was bluffing. Whether I'm trash or not, you'll know once you try. Night Sorrow was expressionless, but he held the 1,000-catty demon subduing spear in his hands. Night Sorrow, your talent is shocking and your future is limitless. If you have the ability, then run. Don't worry about us. Just help us take revenge in the future. Seeing Night Sorrow kill 8 high-level feather gods, Jingyun knew that he had reached his limit. It's fine, I can still fight. Night Sorrow, who was standing on the platform, felt like he was about to fall. He couldn't even stand steadily. The battle just now was too fierce, and there were countless wounds on his body, making him look extremely wretched. He had used up too much energy and was close to his limit. Brother Night Sorrow, hurry up and run. I, Ho Lai, respect you as a man. However, Ling Tian's strength is close to that of a half-step high god. In your current state, you're no match for him. Ho Lai's eyes were red. It's a pity that we haven't known each other for long. We can't fight together. Yes, Yishang, hurry up and run. We'll help you stall Ling Tian. Gung Chun panted as he prepared to ignite his blood essence and self-destruct. Everyone was able to discern that Night Sorrow's current state was like a fallen leaf drifting in the wind, and he was utterly unfit to continue fighting. Jingyun and Zhu Yunxia, who had gathered together, saw that Night Sorrow was in such a bad state and still refused to leave. They were so anxious that they started crying. They did not expect that Night Sorrow was not only talented, but also had a good character. Under such circumstances, he would still protect everyone. Don't worry, Night Sorrow said softly. He didn't say too much. You guys talk too much. Night Sorrow, since you won't be a hero, I will fulfill your wish. Die. Everyone treated Night Sorrow as a hero, and Ling Tian was extremely unhappy. Burning with jealousy, he furiously attacked Night Sorrow. No! Ling Tian's aura was extremely frightening, causing Jing Yun to shout out worriedly. Just in time, who lives and who dies will be decided in an instant. Facing Ling Tian's attack, Night Sorrow did not move, because he did not have the extra strength to do so. When Ling Tian was in front of him, he roared and cut off his left arm, using the limitless body tempering art to absorb it. Then he used the 1,000 Catty Demon subduing spear to stab out with his strongest attack. This attack was the forbidden spear art that he had just comprehended. Although it was not flashy, it had the aura of destruction. The spear tip emitting a faint black light was so fast that it was impossible to dodge. What's going on? Why can't I dodge it? Facing this spear, Ling Tian realized that something was wrong and had no chance to dodge. Pooh! The spear hit, and Ling Tian's body directly turned into a bloody mist. Night Sorrow actually took Ling Tian's life with a single spear. Moreover, it was a direct blow. This caused everyone present to be dumbfounded. They did not understand what Night Sorrow's spear was all about. This is the Forbidden Spear. Night Sorrow, who had succeeded in killing Ling Tian with a single spear, only said these 5 words before sitting on the ground to recover. There were no recovery pills in the Endless Bone Realm, and Night Sorrow and the others did not have any rare treasures, so they could only recover naturally. He actually killed Ling Tian with a single move. Is this true? I'm afraid that only someone as strong as Big Brother can do this. Ling Tian's death had solved a huge problem. Jing Yun should have been very happy, but she was already immersed in deep shock. Night Sorrow, who was a lower feather god in the body refinement realm, had actually killed Ling Tian, who was a higher feather god, with a single spear strike. This was the first time in the Endless Bone Realm. Moreover, Night Sorrow seemed to have been constantly increasing his strength during the battle. Originally, he would not have been able to do all this. In fact, it was not just her. Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, and Geng Chun were also dumbfounded. They even forgot the excitement of escaping death. After a while, Geng Chun said, "Brother Night Sorrow, can I ask you for a favor? What is it? Speak." Although Night Sorrow was exhausted, he still had the strength to speak. "If possible, I want to ask you to take me out of the Endless Bone Realm. There are important people waiting for me outside." Geng Chun's eyes were filled with anticipation. "If I have the ability to help you, I will definitely do it." Night Sorrow nodded. Although he had promised Geng Chun, Night Sorrow was not confident in this matter. This was because if he wanted to help them leave the Endless Bone Realm, he would first have to have the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda recognize him as its master. After that, the 5 of them rested on the platform for 7 days. When Night Sorrow had recovered, he condensed his power of virtue to protect them. They passed through a group of lower feather god skeletons and arrived at a mountain slope in front of them, where they found cave. They were all in very bad condition. After entering the cave, they began a long period of recovery. By the time the 5 of them had mostly recovered, 2 years had already passed. At this time, there were countless small groups searching for opportunities in the formation. However, this formation was large enough that even if tens of thousands of cultivators entered to search for opportunities, the chances of them encountering each other were not very high. "We've mostly recovered. It's time to go out and search for opportunities. What do you think?" Night Sorrow's injuries were completely healed, but his clothes were a bit tattered. He did not want his opportunity to be taken away, so he was a bit anxious. Everyone has mostly recovered, but Jing Yun is a bit weak. "Why don't we send her out and then come back in?" "Brother Night Sorrow, what do you think?" Geng Chun suggested. For this trip, Jing Yun was indeed a burden. The deeper we go into this formation, the more dangerous it will be. Jing Yun, what do you think?" Night Sorrow looked at Jing Yun. "AI, although I'm still looking forward to the opportunity, I don't want to be a burden to you. I'll go out," Jing Yun said with some reluctance. However, she was too weak and did not have any special abilities, so she could only withdraw. The battle 2 years ago had already made her understand the cruelty of this place. Wait for me here. I have the power of virtue protecting me. The weaker skeletons won't attack me at all. Since they had decided to send Jing Yun out of the formation, Knight Sorrow spoke his mind. Everyone knew that this was the best choice. After all, they had fewer people and less of a target, so no one objected. The cave they were hiding in was not far from the entrance of the formation. With Knight Sorrow's power of virtue protecting him, they quickly arrived at the bottom of the stairs of the platform. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.